All right. And we are live. Welcome to NFL Live Before Lock for right now, Showdown edition. I am Josh Engelman, and I'm going to get this started with a bit of conversation using our single lineup simulator for this really illustrious football game that we're going to have here today. I hope you guys are excited to talk about Giants Panthers. We really gave Germany the goods today. These teams stink. I can't imagine going to this, but we are going to sit here today and build some lineups. So hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Follow me on Twitter at Josh Engelman. Maybe first, before we really dive into this, let's talk about what happens for the rest of the day, because we do not stop pumping out NFL content on a Sunday. If you are here, you don't have to turn this stream off at all until 1 o'clock. I'm here until 9:30. We're going to build a lineup or two on DraftKings, probably build a lineup or two on FanDuel for the Showdown slate. Greg will then hop in at 9:30. He's going to do the same thing, but he's going to do it for the main slate. I know that's what you guys are probably looking for the most, but we do have a nice little 25-minute run-up to this Showdown game. Then you get the goods. 10 o'clock, Laffy, Ben, it's the NFL Deeper Dive. They break down every single game. They're going to go for an hour and a half. They'll take you all the way up until 11:30, at which point injury news is going to start to come in. And then you're going to have Eric and Gajeski. They are going to take you all the way up until 1 p.m. 4 straight hours, guys. We don't go anywhere. You don't have to change the stream. It just stays here. Pull this bad boy up on your TV, sit back, relax, and have some fun. Now, speaking of fun, this is pretty much the only way we can make this game fun. I can't imagine anybody actually, if you are not a Giants fan or a Panthers fan, the idea of watching this sounds awful. But you know what makes it incredibly more interesting? Being able to use our single lineup sim to build lineups on DraftKings and FanDuel for it. We need something to sweat in this one to actually give us something we really do like to do. And I don't know about you guys, but I love building out lineups in this thing. So let's do it right now. JB says, just a DGen Showdown player. Yep, exactly. James Mack, you make a good point. What did Germany do to deserve this? I don't know, but I'm happy we did it to them. Obviously, I know, by the way. And just in case you can't see it, I'm going to do it again today, baby. Repping the Liverpool, taking down Aston Villa, top of the league. We should be doing soccer shows, man. All right, Jordan, here we go. Let's do large contest. Let me hop over and see specifically what the payout is. Showdown captain. The main. Let's see. Did that fill already? Holy shit, it did. All right, we're going 25%. It's incredible that filled. Bug Boy, I care about it. And guess what? I control the content for this 30 minutes. You guys could listen to me talk about Liverpool for the next 25, and I'd be incredibly happy about it. So as you guys are getting in the door, make sure you're hitting that like button. Let's build out that lineup. Lee Jenks. So that's not what I had, but I did have a 4-leg same game. Liverpool to win, 2 or more goals. Got it. 5 shots on target. Got it. Darwin Nunez, first goal scorer. Got it. I am dialed in right now. I'm not really dialed in with this Giants-Panthers team, but luckily for us, this tool makes our life incredibly easy. So the first thing I want to do, chat, I want a little bit of help here. I want you guys to start me off. I'm going to take whoever the consensus play is that you guys shout out into chat. Who do you guys want to use as our captain in this first lineup? Marcus Jones, thank you. All right, Coker, Tracy, Chuba. Okay. We're looking good. Chat's on one here. A lot of Tracy, a lot of Chuba Hubbard. We're going Tracy. Tracy seems to be the consensus move here. So Tyrone Tracy going into the captain spot. The rest of this, it's about to get interesting. So the first thing that I like to do is sort by value and find out some of the more efficient plays. And immediately when you sort by value in our tool, give me 1 second. I want to pin Jordan's window so I see the same thing. Okay, perfect. First thing that I see when we look at value is a pretty clear best value option. And that's going to be David Moore. Now, whether we like that or not is a completely different question. But on the surface, that looks like the best option. Are there better values? Yeah, we have some of the crazy, $200 type players showing up as different style point per dollar plays. But I don't think that that's what we're really talking. Not that you can't be using those guys, but it's not necessarily immediately what we're looking for. When you see someone have that first legit salary, someone like David Moore at 3K, be that top value, I feel pretty good clicking that name to try to get some cost savings. And honestly, like 24.5% ownership, not all that crazy here either. Now, that starts us off, obviously, one Giant, one Panther. And I don't really think that that points to anything too crazy that we need to go in for. And I'm expecting to have a pretty decent chunk of salary when all is said and done, because we started this off now with Moore as the best value. And then Tyrone Tracy is actually the second best value that we can get to. The next one is Daniel Jones. I feel like having at least one quarterback in here makes some sense. And I probably prefer Jones quite a bit to Bryce Young. Not the biggest Bryce Young guy. Definitely not all that liked in this state, in my experience, as I sit here in North Carolina right now. So I am going to get Daniel Jones in. And that's where we need to start making some real decisions. I don't feel like Chuba Hubbard fits this lineup so far, which kind of points me to maybe like Sanders. 4,400, 1.6x value is still relatively decent. There's a lot of landmines, a lot more, or a lot further down. So I kind of want to go to Sanders here. That's freeing us up a ton of money. This almost by default then gets us. Let's see, what do we got in here? Okay, so yeah, we got the same lineup in here right now. We have 9,800 to spend on our final two guys. This is striking me as a situation where we're going to end up leaving a decent chunk of salary on the table. And I think that will be the differentiator. Whether or not we end up getting enough fantasy points over top of that ownership number is going to be what we're looking for here. So that's 2 and 2. I kind of want to double up. I kind of want this lineup to be a 4-2 build as we're going. And if we're going to have Jones and Tracy, honestly, I'm kind of, if we're going to have Moore and Sanders there, I think we might be able to get away with the Giants D. Can we do Giants D and Neighbors? At least 3,300. My assumption here is that this is going to be a negative ROI lineup. I think we're leaving too much on the table. And obviously, rostering. Whoa, boy. Wait. Do we have a different? What is? Okay, so I have Tracy, Moore, Jones, Sanders, Giants, and Neighbors. Yeah. What do you have for projections last updated and ownership last updated? It should be in the top right corner. Okay. I apparently I didn't refresh my tab because you ran it and got negative 28 and I ran it and I got positive 52. So I got it like 2 seconds before you did and I was getting ready to talk that ish and we had two completely different ones. Okay. So what you got is what I expected to get when we ran that. And what we need to do really is figure out the easiest way for us to acquire more fantasy points. As I'm looking at it, it seems like it's got to be Sanders that leaves that lineup. Because if we take out Sanders, who, based on the salary that we have remaining, is 2.8 fantasy points behind Wan'Dale Robinson. So he is excessively like not a great value, but I'm going to swap him out and turn this into a 5-1 giant stack. Now I'm hoping that we have cracked the code here, acquired a couple extra fantasy points, spent a bigger chunk of our salary. I'll tell you what, though, I may be the czar of building lineups in this thing. I do find NFL Showdown to be the hardest one to build out and be comfortable with. But you can see it on the screen now. That swap out, spending that additional 3,000 in this lineup, acquiring those fantasy points from Wan'Dale Robinson, that took us from massive negative to great lineup per the screen. 52% ROI, 0.7% win rate. It's a 4% top 10 lineup. You cash 35% of the time. I think we built a pretty good one. So Jimmy Hayes asked the question, why Sanders anyways? He was a good value. We got to stop thinking like anything matters other than fantasy projection and ownership. Now, when I look at this lineup, I don't naturally see a change. So I'm going to have one more question for chat here. Who do you like in this game? Because I kind of now want to do the opposite build here and go 5-1 Carolina. Because you guys basically hit us with, when I asked for captains, you hit me with basically two consensus choices, Tyrone Tracy and Chuba Hubbard. So now I say we build the Chuba Hubbard version of this one and get him in at captain. And now we start building around a Panthers onslaught here. So if we're going to go to Chuba Hubbard, part of me sort of wants to then grab either the Panthers D or Eddie Pinheiro. Based on projection and ownership, I'd like to get to Panthers D more than I want to get to Pinheiro. Panthers D is a slightly better value. They're $200 cheaper. They project for slightly more fantasy points, and it's slightly less ownership than what we're getting for Pinheiro. So we're going to start with Chuba Hubbard, and we're going to finish that up next with Panthers D. We're going to need to spend some salary. So I think Bryce Young has to get in there. Strikes me as a spot where we also want to go a little bit cheaper. I'm going to bring Ja'Tavion Sanders back into the fold here. That gets us 4 Carolina Panthers, and now we have 8,600 per spot to fill it out. The next spot we need to go to is finding a giant. And in this spot, I kind of like the idea of going to someone like Daniel Jones. Will run the ball from time to time. You could feel pretty good where maybe the passing game's not there. Maybe he sneaks in on some sort of rushing touchdown. We need to spend that salary one way or the other. So I think Daniel Jones going 2 quarterbacks here, but maybe Daniel Jones solo, hoping for a bigger rushing game could be interesting. And then we need to fill out this final Panther spot. This is where we're going to end up not having somebody that immediately jumps out. This could actually be a situation where I want to test it with Jalen Coker at 6,400, leaving 1,500 on the table. But I could see a situation where we leave more on the table and go from Coker to Graham Gano. It's Bryce Young and Daniel Jones. Hold on. You have too many people in there somehow. Who's the so it's you have Chuba. What's the next name that I see? Okay. Yep. Daniel Jones. What do you have in that next line then? Oh, you already put him in. Got it. Yeah. Okay. Let's test this one, leaving 1,500 on the table. My assumption is we're going to need to make an upgrade here. And I just love, yeah, I got negative 18 when I ran it. This is why I love this, because you can get really hands-on. Now, the goal was going 5-1 Panthers. I want to see what this looks like if we swap out Coker for Graham Gano, because that is a pretty sizable upgrade in projection and not really that much of a change in ownership. And that also plays well if Daniel Jones is just like the solo guy at QB. Maybe we're just ending up with a bunch of Giants field goals. Okay. We got to 19.3. I really don't see a different path there, though. I mean, in theory, we could put Wan'Dale Robinson in and do the exact same thing we did last time. That combination is going to leave $500 on the table. And honestly, if you swap, Jordan, if you swap out Graham Gano right now for Wan'Dale Robinson, I fully expect this number to be quite a bit higher than 19%. I'm the single lineup czar in this. No, it's going to be the exact same, basically. I'm the single lineup czar when it comes to baseball and NBA in my wheelhouse. I'm willing to concede. Oh, yeah, that looked way better for you. I'll take that. 40 will work. So we had a 40 and a 50 on DraftKings. I'll never be mad about that. Something else that I would never be mad about. This is something that's going to impact you guys in a pretty big way. If you want the tools that we have at Stokastic, we ran some promos at the start of the season. We ran our nice promo coming off of the Millie win 2 weeks ago. But now, if you want to sign up at Stokastic and you are in a legal sports betting state and haven't hit all the sports books, or if you are a person that really likes pick'em sites and you haven't signed up at all of them, there's a link in the description of this video. Jordan will drop it in chat as well. You can get a month of our DFS sims for free by clicking that link, signing up at one of our partners, making a deposit, follow the instructions on the screen. You'll get a month, but you'll also get something from these sites, whether that's Underdog or FanDuel Sportsbook, DraftKings Sportsbook, Caesars, Bet365, or BetMGM on the sports betting side, whether it's Pick Six or Sleeper or Better or wherever you're going, we've got deals for it on this page that Jordan is showing on the screen right now. Instructions are at the top. If you follow those and use one of the links below, you're going to get a month of our sims, and it's going to cost you absolutely nothing. Not to mention, you can see some of these deals here. You're getting bonus bets and casino bonuses. You're getting a deposit bonus, depending on one of the sites here. Look at Better, $250 first match deposit bonus. You can get a $100 deposit match bonus on Sleeper, up to $1,000 on Underdog. So if you're not at one of these sites yet, you're kind of leaving a bunch of value for yourself on the table, because it's going to cost you nothing to do this other than whatever deposit you need to make at that site. But between the bonus money and the value you get of a month of our sims, anybody that's interested in this, that is looking to play at one of those sites, the only thing you should be thinking is to click one of these buttons and sign up through the links. You can get these tools for right now. You could use, I mean, it's going to be a tough squeeze to get it in the next 7 minutes, but for the main slate, all of our simulation package, whether you want to build single lineups for the main slate, whether you want to use our full sims and you're looking to play like a 20 max or 150 entries, something like that, we've got exactly what you need. Not to mention it includes our projections, our ownership, our top stacks tool, boom bust information to tell you how frequently players are going to hit their ceilings or completely bust. Lots of advanced information on the back end, and you can do it very easily by just signing up through these links. So, FanDuel guys, I know you're out there. We have the opportunity to build one quick lineup from the Giants and Carolina game here. Now, FanDuel is a journey when it comes to this stuff. But we can build one here. So we need an MVP, 4 flex plays. We've done one for Chuba Hubbard. We've done one for Tyrone Tracy. As I look at the value options for somebody I would want to pay up for, it honestly feels like Daniel Jones, but his ownership is so disproportionately high that I kind of want to do Chuba Hubbard again. So I'm going to get Chuba Hubbard in. Now I'm going to get Daniel Jones in. This feels like a spot where I could then also get Graham Gano. That'd leave us 10,750. Kind of want to grab the other kicker and grab Eddie Pinheiro. Go double kicker, Daniel Jones, Chuba Hubbard. Leaves us 1,300 for our final spot. That can be Tyrone Tracy. I think that makes at least a little bit of sense since we have, I mean, I don't love going quarterback, running back, kicker, but I'm willing to test it out. That spends the full boat. I got a sneaky suspicion that the fantasy points here are going to be a hair low. No, I am incorrect. Another 58.7% sim ROI. Another great lineup like that. Ryan Wagner says, put Wandale in at captain, then use Tompkins. 3-3 for both. Okay. I'm assuming you're talking about DraftKings. We're past that now. But 58%, I mean, I can't say that I hate it. The problem is we definitely couldn't change up Tracy because Bryce Young actually projects 3 fantasy points below him. So the person we would probably have to swap out, I don't even think it's possible here. Technically speaking, the Panthers defense at the same price as Pinheiro gets an extra 0.2 of a fantasy point and an 8% ownership discount. So Jordan, swap out the Panthers kicker, Pinheiro, for the Panthers defense. I think this will be an upgrade. Maybe correlations make it a little bit weird, but this is technically an ownership discount. Oh, baby. This is what we're leaving on. Get ready. I have it. Jordan doesn't have it yet. You guys will see it on the screen. There it is, baby. Hey, Bug Boy, look at the screen right now. I'm not giving the job to Laffy anymore. He loses the job. The czar is in the building. 151.8. It's just those little tweaks. You build your lineup, and then what you're really looking to do is find the places where you can take one guy out, upgrade fantasy points, discount ownership. When you can move both of those things in opposite directions, you are going to greatly increase the expected ROI of the lineup that you are building. This is spending every cent, but this is about as good as it gets. No words for you on this one, Bug Boy. Good luck building something better than this. The czar is here, and he is absolutely nuking FanDuel lineups. You guys still have 3.5 minutes. I'm okay if you guys want to steal this one, because let's be clear here. I'm not confident anybody's building anything better than that. If you guys are using the single lineup sim, if you're playing on FanDuel, let me know if you saw a number better than this one, because I'm going to go ahead and assume that I'm at the top of the heap. Obi knows it. Never question the czar. I shouldn't have questioned myself. That lack of confidence in my abilities to create lineups, so efficient with so little work. I mean, how long did it take us to build that lineup out? 3 minutes? It's incredible. Hockey Freak Sean says, build all you want. If it doesn't hit, you ain't nuking shit. That is a very true statement. That is a very true statement. This is the greatest tool that we have here on the DFS side. At this point now, if you are doing anything in this space, DFS, pick'em, sports betting, the combination of this tool and Odd Shopper, it's like having a job you don't have to work. What more could you possibly want? You see Greg, if you follow Greg on Twitter, he's doing a bankroll challenge for the NBA. Absolutely smashing. It's already more than doubled his bankroll since the start of the NBA season, which was, 2.5 weeks ago? You can be using Odd Shopper with a relatively small bankroll, still see success. And then you can use the single lineup tool to get hands-on your builds. Because I know a lot of you really want to get your hands dirty when you're building out lineups, especially for the NFL, where you can think about this kind of stuff for a week and hone your stuff. And you can save all the lineups that you build yourself out a little bit of a package. They'll stick around. I think using those two tools is the best combination of anything you can get anywhere in this industry, and I don't even think it's particularly close. Nobody else offers this single lineup sim the way that we do. And OddsShopper is unequivocally the best product that exists on the sports betting side. We have all the data to prove it too. I'll stack it up against anybody. Everybody else that shows up is going to lose pretty aggressively. It's like when someone else shows up trying to build higher ROI lineups than me. It's just not going to happen. You're going to fail. But now we're going to watch one person try to do a little bit better of a job in this. He's going to head in here right now and build out lineups using this tool for the main slate, which is, I know, what you guys are really looking for. So stay tuned. Hit the like button. Let's run that number up a little bit more. Greg Ehrenberg incoming right now, building out lineups for the main. Good luck, everybody. Talk to you later.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the lineup building portion of the Sunday block of football shows. We just said Josh covering the Showdown slate. I'm going to build some lineups with you guys for the next 30 minutes. Then we're going to have Ben and Lofty. They're going to be breaking down all the games game by game basis on the deep dive. And then we're going to have Eric and Matt Gajeski closing it out on Live Before Lock with going over their exposures, any final ownership projection updates, news that breaks. They're going to have you guys covered on that. So right now, if you guys could do me a favor, if you've not already, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. And also, we did have a quick question in YouTube that I wanted to answer from Anthony Masilli. He wanted to know, because we're going to build lineups here using the single lineup sim. He wanted to know, is there a package here that just has the single lineup sim? And the short answer is yes. The data package, it is going to get you all the things you need for the single lineup sim. And it's not going to give you some of the other stuff that maybe you don't need, like the Sims Max package or anything like that. But you still need the data to come with the single lineup sim, and it can't just be its own standalone thing, because it still needs the player projections, the ownership, and all that to be able to function. So yes, if you want to sign up for the data package, that is going to include the single lineup sim that we're going to be using to build lineups here. And something else as well, if you guys do want to get a really affordable way to get access to all of the different packages that we have here at Stokastic.com for the different Sportsbook core packages, you could sign up for any of the sportsbook partners that we have in the link down below in the YouTube description box. And it doesn't really matter what state you're in. If you're a state that doesn't have betting, well, you should have access to some of these pick'em sites like Better or Vivid Picks or Underdog. And then if you're a state that has betting, there's Bet365, there's Caesars. And if you sign up at any of these books using the link we have below, you have to go through that link for tracking purposes. Well, then you get yourself one free month of core of any sport of your choosing for each book that you sign up at. So if you wanted to, you could sign up at 6 different books, get yourself 3 months of NBA, 3 months of NFL. You could do 6 months of NBA. So whatever it is that you guys want to sign up for, go through that link down below. Really, really affordable way to get access to our tools. And on top of that, too, a lot of these books have really good deposit offers where you could put $100 into Sleeper and they're going to match you $100. So you get all that plus a free month of any core package of a sport of your choosing. So check that out if you guys are looking for a way to get access to our tools. But now let's start looking at those tools, beginning, Jordan, with our player projections. It's how we always start here on Sunday. Just give you guys a good overview of the slate and who's projecting the best, beginning with the quarterbacks. And yeah, quarterbacks have been projecting a little bit better as of late. If I'm not mistaken, I think last week was maybe just the first or second slate of the entire season where there were multiple QBs on the main slate, project for north of 20 fantasy points. We got 4 of them today. Jaden Daniels, who's always projecting well from a DFS perspective now, he's leading the way at 22.38 fantasy points. Then you got Brock Purdy, who's projecting for 21 in a great matchup against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, those are your other 2 quarterbacks, just over 20 fantasy points. And then just below that in the 18 fantasy point range, Patrick Mahomes, Sam Darnold, and Baker Mayfield. As far as the chalk at the quarterback position, if you wouldn't mind sorting by that, Jordan. Yeah, you guys will see here, just 2 QBs pulling north of 10% ownership. The chalk at the position, Brock Purdy, now $6,500, taking on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And then Justin Herbert, he is the punt quarterback that's pulling ownership on this slate. At $5,200, we've got right around 10% projected ownership going to Justin Herbert there. Good match for him against the Titans. And what you got to really like about the Chargers offense is that they've finally started to throw the ball a little bit more. So if I pull up Justin Herbert's pass attempts per game, and I think there's reason to, I think this makes sense to be the case as well. Well, Justin Herbert, the last 4 games, he has had 27, although last game it was a blowout, but 27 pass attempts, 32 pass attempts, 39 pass attempts, 34 pass attempts. Whereas the first 4 games, he was barely averaging over 20 pass attempts per game. So what's changed with the Chargers? Well, a couple things. For starters, Justin Herbert's healthier. He was not healthy into the coming into the season. He was not healthy in training camp either. Wasn't really able to participate in any of the preseason activities. So yeah, Justin Herbert at less than 100% coming into the year. That was going to lead the Chargers to be more of a run-happy team. And then on top of that, it's new coaching staff. The wide receiving core is different. There's no more Keenan Allen. There's no more Mike Williams. So when you have a new system, new players to throw to, and an unhealthy quarterback, the Chargers are just more conservative opening up the season by running the ball more. And now as those things have all started to gel, Herbert more comfortable in the system, more comfortable with his wideouts, actually being healthier, we're starting to see him throw the football more. And that's something we are all aware of, but it's not being taken account for in the pricing for DFS. So Justin Herbert, really good value option for the slate. Let's go to the running backs next, Jordan. Yeah, and over at the running back position, no real surprise at the top here. Alvin Kamara, Saquon Barkley, they are the 2 top projected running backs on the day. We've got Alvin Kamara at $8,100. Even a little bit of a gap between him and Saquon Barkley. 23 fantasy point projection for Kamara, right around 21 fantasy points for Barkley. Then the other RB that's pulling over a 20 fantasy point projection, it's Breece Hall in a good matchup against the Arizona Cardinals. Then just below 20 fantasy points, we have Bijan Robinson, Jonathan Taylor, and Christian McCaffrey making his season debut. It remains to be seen how involved he is going to be in the offense. And I'm kind of surprised people are getting to him right out of the gate. We've got 11% ownership going to Christian McCaffrey. So you got a guy, a little bit of uncertainty with his workload after missing more than half of the season with Achilles injuries to both of his legs. And, you know, he was somebody who it seemed like he was a game time decision for the first game of the season, gets ruled out late, and then we just don't see him for a very long time. I tend to think the 49ers are going to be a little bit cautious with him to open the year, but we'll see. So I'm not going to be taking chances on him in GPPs, but some of the field is. He's pulling 11% ownership, and he is Christian McCaffrey. So I could certainly be on the wrong side of this, but for me, I'd rather be on Saquon Barkley at similar ownership and a slightly higher projection. I feel better about his workload than Alvin Kamara as well, of course. Ownership projections, we've got as the chalk at the position, which there's nobody projected for like insane ownership at RB, but Kamara, Aaron Jones, both 26% owned, Breece Hall, 20% owned. And then if you're looking for a cheaper running back, the popular cheap RB, which also not insane ownership, but DeAndre Swift is $6,500 and pulling 19% ownership. Then you got Bijan Robinson, 18% owned at $7,700. No Chase Brown on this slate. There's no super cheap running back that's in an incredible spot that's pulling 30+% ownership or anything like that. So that's where the popularity is at the running back position. And now at wide receiver, if we go to the wideouts, Jordan, where we don't have wide receivers projected as well as running backs. So top end running backs do look a little bit better than the top end wide receivers. The one exception being Justin Jefferson, projecting just over 20 fantasy points against the Jaguars. Then you got Garrett Wilson at 17 fantasy points. And the only other two wide receivers were even in the 16 fantasy point range, A.J. Brown and Devontae Adams. So if we look at the ownership at wide receiver, where now you'll see some guys who are, a little bit cheaper that are pulling some ownership. You got Josh Downs, the most popular wide receiver on the slate, 23% projected ownership. Michael Pittman, who's been banged up since week 2 or week 3. There was reports that he was heading to the IR. Then all of a sudden he ends up playing, and he just tried to battle through the injuries, but hasn't really been all that effective. They're going to be holding him out today. And as a result, you'll see 2 of the 3 most popular wide receivers on this slate. It's guys who are slightly underpriced from the Colts because of the absence of Michael Pittman. So Josh Downs at 6,200, pulling 23% ownership. And then Adonai Mitchell, 17% owned. He looks like the top value at the wide receiver position. Not crazy ownership or anything, projected for 8 fantasy points. And the other popular wide out here, Khalil Shakur at 6K, pulling 21% ownership. Then you got some guys who are in the teens, DeAndre Hopkins, Lad McConkey, Devontae Adams, so no kind of real massive ownership there. And now finally, the tight end overview before we start building some lineups. At tight end, it is, once again, we're starting to see tight end position looking better. Travis Kelce, he's back to his old self. Cade Otton, he's in a great spot because of all the guys who are out for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. No Mike Evans, no Chris Godwin. So Cade Otton at $5,500, he's projecting for nearly 16 fantasy points. Then you got George Kittle with Brandon Ayuk out. Then you got Dalton Kincaid, Trey McBride, Evan Ingram. You got no more Christian Kirk for the Jacksonville Jaguars. So a lot of wide receiver injuries. I'm making it so that there is more usage going to tight ends. Like even in the case of Travis Kelce, really poor start to the season. Rashee Rice gets hurt, and all of a sudden Kelce starts to look like himself again. Double-digit catches last week. So once again, at the top of the tight end fantasy point projections. And then if you look at the ownership for tight end, once again, a lot of good options here. No one chalk. It's pretty spread out. Cade Otton is 18% owned. Kittle 16%. Kincaid 16%. Hunter Henry 15%. Travis Kelce 13%. And then Will Dissly, if you're looking for a value tight end to pair with Justin Herbert, he is only 10% owned. So with all of that said, let's start building some lineups here. And if you guys have any questions for me, leave a super chat. If you're in our Discord channel, one of the perks of having a Stokastic membership is it comes with access to Discord. I'm going to be paying attention to any questions that come in there. And to begin here, we have a question from Hypnotoad. He wants to know, what is my favorite stack for today? So yeah, we'll start with DraftKings and just my favorite overall stack to be getting to if we're going to be looking maybe away from just the chalk at Brock Purdy, because I do think Brock Purdy looks really good. But if we want to get away from the chalk with Brock Purdy, let's look at a little bit lesser owned of a quarterback in Baker Mayfield on the other side of the game. This is a way that I think we could get exposure to this Tampa Bay Buccaneers, San Francisco 49ers game and really lower ownership a little bit by getting to Baker Mayfield, who's only projected for 5% ownership as opposed to the, what was it, 16% ownership or 17% ownership on Brock Purdy. So let's plug in Baker Mayfield here, Jordan. And then with Baker Mayfield, we have a number of cheaper options that we could go to with him. But the one I like the most, it is Cade Otton. Cade Otton's just been a massive target as of late, probably by necessity for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers when you consider all the players who are out for them. There's a number of ways we could go cheap at wide receiver as well with Baker Mayfield. But a lot of these guys, it's kind of a crapshoot who the cheap guy is going to be. Is it going to be Raheem Jarrett? Is it going to be Trey Palmer? The one guy we know for sure is getting targets. Here's Cade Otton's workload the last 3 weeks. Against the Chiefs, 8 catches on 11 targets. Against the Falcons, 9 catches on 10 targets. Against the Ravens, 8 catches on 10 targets. He's basically the wide receiver 1 for this team right now. So I like Cade Otton paired with Baker Mayfield. And then if we're going to go to one of the wide receivers, let's see. I mean, there's just so many cheap guys we could click on. The one who's projecting the best for us right now, and it's also going to make the lineup fairly low. And let's just plug in Raheem Jarrett, $3,600. This is going to be a pretty contrarian stack that we have here. And then as a run back from San Francisco, let's plug in Debo at $6,900. All right. So here we've got the core of our stack, Baker Mayfield. We've got Cade Otton. Like we said, there's a number of cheap wideouts you could click on. You could just go a single stack and go Cade Otton. I want to go double stack for this, so I plug in Raheem Jarrett. And then we've also got Deebo Samuel in the lineup. Now let's go ahead and look at the running backs. And we've already gone really, really cheap at pass catcher here when you consider that we've got a Raheem Jarrett to save salary with, and we've also gone contrarian. So I think we could afford to be a little bit chalkier at the running back position here. So let's just plug in Alvin Kamara and Aaron Jones. Two top projected running backs on the slate. They're also pulling the most ownership, but I know when I just run my stuff through the Sims, these are the two running backs I get the most exposure to, each of them showing up in about half of my lineup. So I think this is going to make the lineup look pretty good here from a fantasy point standpoint. And also, once again, don't have to worry too much about ownership considering how low owned we are at some of the other spots. Let's plug in a cheap defense now, just so we know how much salary that we're going to be working with. And let's see, viable cheap defenses. I think we always end up doing this on the show, Jordan. Patriots defense, $2,500 going up against the Chicago Bears. You got a quarterback in Caleb Williams. Some days he's going to look really good. Some days he doesn't look as good, but the Bears always give him a really long leash. They're trying to get him the reps, trying to get him the experience. And it sets up opportunities for the opposing defenses when Caleb Williams is going to be throwing the ball 30 plus times, sack opportunities, turnover opportunities, and only $2,500 for the Patriots defense. So we'll go to them. What does that give us left for the last two spots? 5,100. All right, let's go to Adonai Mitchell at the other wide receiver spot. And then we could plug in who projects best of everybody in the flex. Okay. Yeah, I like this. We're getting, oh no, never mind. I forgot we have the Patriots defense. So can't go there. Who projects second best? All right, that's totally fine. Let's go to James Conner. It's only a tenth of a fantasy point difference. So yeah, forgot that we had the Patriots defense there against the Bears. So let's just go there to Connor instead. And now we'll see what the sim ROI is looking like here. Looking solid, 95.6% sim ROI. So there's one kind of build that I really do like getting to, the Baker Mayfield builds. Let's also go and make a Justin Herbert stack. And also, if you do want to play Brock Purdy, obviously you could build a very similar looking lineup just with Brock Purdy as opposed to Baker Mayfield being the quarterback, but it gives you a little bit more ownership in the lineup. It's also a little bit more expensive. So I actually do prefer some of those lineups with Baker Mayfield instead. So let's now go with the other cheap stack that stands out on the day, and that is going to be the Chargers, Justin Herbert at $5,200 at quarterback. And now I think the two best overall options to be stacking with him, they are Ladd McConkey, and I like Will Dissly as well at tight end to pair with him. Yeah, so we'll go McConkey and we'll go Dissly. So this is going to be a build that's not like crazy popular, but this is definitely a direction the field is going in to build some cheaper stacks. And if you see with this core here, we get nearly $6,000 left for the remaining spots. As far as a run back, I just don't really like anything from Tennessee. That offense has been a total disaster. There's been times where it's made sense to go to Tony Pollard, but now we've got a slate here where, I don't know, there's just other running backs that I'd prefer. It's loaded at running back. I don't like Calvin Ridley all that much either if we're looking at a pass catcher for the Tennessee Titans. Like if you had to plug in one run back, I would say that Calvin Ridley is the guy, but I don't think we need one for this particular lineup. Let's instead go at running back, Jordan. And all right, we went with Alvin Kamara and Aaron Jones in the last lineup. I don't want to go with the exact same running back combination. So instead, let's go mid-range. Let's go Aaron Jones and DeAndre Swift. Let's see how that ends up looking. Yeah, Aaron Jones, DeAndre Swift. And then at wide receiver, we went with Adonai Mitchell in the last lineup. So let's go Josh Downs instead, because we went pretty cheap relative to our last build at running back. So instead of Adonai Mitchell, I think we go to Josh Downs since we went to DeAndre Swift as opposed to Alvin Kamara. All right, so we got Josh Downs in the lineup. And now let's also go. Here's another wide receiver that I like quite a bit for this week. I think the field is as well. He's projected for modest but not crazy ownership. DeAndre Hopkins looked great last week with the Kansas City Chiefs, and it was hard to tell. Like, how much did DeAndre Hopkins have left in the tank? And he looked not great in Tennessee, but Will Levis was his quarterback. If you got this quarterback who's just making the dumbest interceptions of all time, making horrific decisions, and just throwing for like 98 yards in a game, how good could DeAndre Hopkins ever look? And the answer was not all that great. But last week, big time breakout performance in his second game with the Chiefs. He was super involved in the offense. And I think he's going to be a number one wide receiver going forward. So let's go DeAndre Hopkins, also modestly priced at $5,300, pulling 15% ownership. And now we've got the defense and the flex spot left. So at defense, let's see. Let's mix it up a little bit. And let's go to the Bears defense. Also somewhat cheap. And we've got DeAndre Swift in this lineup. So we got a little bit of correlation with the defense and the running back. So we'll go to them. And what does that give us left, Jordan? All right, so 8,100. All right, so we're still going to end up with Alvin Kamara because it's going to be hard for him to not be the guy to plug in when we're at 8,100. But yeah, put him in. We got a fairly balanced build here, a little bit of a cheaper stack, and we'll see what the sim ROI looks like. I don't like this lineup quite as bit as the last one we built, but still, I think this is a pretty decent core if we're looking at some of these Charger stacks. Yeah, still good, 51.3% sim ROI, but not quite the same ROI that we were getting on the initial lineup. So those are a couple of builds that I'm liking to start some DraftKings lineups with. A contrarian build with Baker Mayfield, and then a little bit more of a popular salary-saving build with the Chargers and Justin Herbert. Let's go and look at FanDuel now. Okay, so now as far as FanDuel goes, let's see. What's a build that we haven't made yet for DraftKings that I like for FanDuel? I'm getting kind of similar QB exposures in my FanDuel lineups now that I'm reviewing them compared to my DK lineups. Let's see. Which direction do I want to go? Let's just build the chalky one yet. We haven't done the Brock Purdy build yet. So let's do Purdy. He's a little bit less owned on FanDuel. Still going to be one of the most popular QBs on the slate. He's 13% owned. Jaden Daniels, 13% owned. But still, it is less ownership than what is going to him over on DraftKings. Shout out to Chris Emery, who left us a super chat. There's no question in there. It's just $1 super chat. But Chris, if you meant to ask a question, just throw it into the YouTube chat. You don't have to leave another super chat or anything. And I'll be looking out for the text to see if there is a question you meant to plug in there with it. But if you just wanted to leave us a super chat, thank you. And I appreciate the support. For everybody else, just simply like the video. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's always the easiest way to support us. Helps us out in the YouTube algorithm. Helps keep our content free. Okay, Chris Emery wanted Mac Jones build. Either that or he's just asking about Mac Jones. He's very cheap. He's very cheap. That is something that we'll go. Let's build a Brock Purdy lineup on FanDuel, Jordan. Then we'll go back to DraftKings with a Mac Jones build. He's only $4,400. But let's see. So for FanDuel first, we've got Brock Purdy in here. And who do we want to pair Brock Purdy with? Do we want to go to George Kittle? Kittle's very expensive on FanDuel at $8K. I think that's going to be a little bit difficult. Juwan Jennings is cheap at $5,800. So I think that's definitely a direction that makes sense from a salary savings perspective. And Debo 8,300, also fairly expensive. I'd rather pay up for Debo than I'd pay up for George Kittle. So let's go Juwan Jennings and Debo Samuel, Jordan. They're $5,800 and $8,300. Yeah. Saiku saying Pro Bowl QB Mac Jones. That is true. I feel like every quarterback makes the Pro Bowl at some point somehow. I don't know how, but there's like 18 Pro Bowl QBs per season. All right. So we got Purdy. We've got Debo. We've got Juwan Jennings. Let's go with K. Dotton as a run back at $6,400 at tight end. He's underpriced on both sides. It's crazy that K. Dotton's $6,400 in this game and George Kittle's $8K. All right. So we've got this core built. And now at running back, I think we might need to go a little bit cheaper with a couple of these spots just because of how expensive Debo Samuel is. But the pricing usually ends up being pretty soft over on FanDuel to where it isn't too much of an issue. But let's go Austin Eckler at $6,800. Once again, Brian Robinson's out. We got a good workload from Austin Eckler last week. Didn't like break the slate or anything, but he was solid. I think it was what, like 16, 17 fantasy points at a cheap price point for Eckler. Ekeler. All right, there we go. All right, so we got Austin Eckler in there, and let's also go James Conner at 7,600. Okay. And then back over to the wide receivers. We haven't built one with Khalil Shakir yet. He's only 6,200 on FanDuel. He shows up in a ton of the lineups that I've built on FanDuel, my most rostered wide receiver. So let's go to Shakir. And now at defense, let's see. Lots of reasonable, cheap options. Just go Patriots defense again. And then we'll see who we have salary left for the flex. All right, so 7,200. Who's projecting the best at 7,200, Jordan? Ooh, boy, I don't really like that much. Who's below Najee Harris? All right, let's go Kelsey instead. We'll go double tight ends. I haven't played a ton of double tight end lineups this year, mostly because the tight end position hasn't been good enough to warrant it on a lot of slates. But with that said, I think this is a fine double tight end slate. There are a lot of good-looking tight end options. All right, looking pretty good. 64.8% sim ROI. So there we have a lineup on FanDuel, and it's a popular one. It's using Brock Purdy. That is going to be one of the chalkier builds on the slate, but I think that is a way that we could make it work there. Still have some good-looking sim ROI lineups. Now, finally, let's go back to DraftKings. We'll build one final lineup here, and this is going to be really, really cheap with Mac Jones at quarterback. And yeah, I mean, Mac Jones, if I'm not mistaken, he's 4,400, correct, Jordan? Yeah, 4,400. He is also not all that popular. So right off the bat, we've got a lower owned lineup, and this is also going to be super, super cheap. And now as far as who we want to pair Mac Jones with, and even though Mac Jones is somebody who's going to get most of his fantasy points passing, I don't think that means that we have to do a double stack with him just because he is so cheap. It's not going to take that many fantasy points for him to potentially land in a winning lineup. So let's go Evan Ingram at tight end with Mac Jones. I see Nick in the chat is asking for Brian Thomas. Yeah, Brian Thomas is another way that we could potentially go here. I like the Ingram build a little bit better with him at $5,300, but I would have no issue with Thomas either. And then wide receiver, we could either go Justin Jefferson as a run back, or actually let's go Aaron Jones, Jordan, because I do like the idea that the way this stack works is the Vikings build up a big lead and the Mac Jones just has garbage time, because I do think that's a situation that Mac Jones would just put up some easy fantasy points. Is, you know, the Vikings are up by like 20 points in the fourth quarter. They've been grinding the clock out with Aaron Jones, and Mac Jones gets the ball back and he's just going up against prevent defense. So let's go Aaron Jones here. I like the game script that this could potentially play out. And we could add Alvin Kamara in here as well. Salary, not that much of an issue with Mac Jones at QB, and neither is ownership. So let's go Alvin Kamara. Steve VFX said that Mac Jones is 6K on FanDuel, not 4K. We're building a DraftKings lineup and he's 4,400 on DraftKings. So that is why we're able to fit him in here for cheap. Wide receivers now. Let's see. So wide receivers, let's go Shakir and Josh Downs, 6,000 and 6K. Points per dollar. These are my favorite wide receivers over on DraftKings in the mid-range. Shakir and Josh Downs. They're somewhat popular and for good reason. All right, so we're going to have to maybe go one cheap wide receiver. Maybe we'll need Adonai Mitchell instead of Josh Downs. Yeah, just leave it as is for now, though. Yeah, let's just do it because we only got a couple minutes left here. So Adonai Mitchell, and then we've got what's the salary left, Jordan? Okay, let's go Hopkins again at 53. That's a salary it's going to work out. And then at defense, if we plug in the Patriots again, we should be able to spend up for one more player in the flex. All right, so 8,300 in the flex. Who's projecting the best now? Is it Barkley? Yeah, let's go Barkley. This is a fun lineup, actually. These per the question that we got here from Chris about Mac Jones lineups. Yeah, I mean, obviously you need Mac Jones to not totally suck. But if you could get like 15, 16 fantasy points out of Mac Jones, look at all the other studs we're able to we're able to fill out the lineup with. Yeah, looks good. 71% sim ROI. One other thing we could have done, if let's do one quick switch before we hand it over to the deep dive guys, Jordan. Let's go to Josh Downs instead of Adonai Mitchell. And then we'll downgrade Barkley and just see what that looks like instead. Yeah, I'll take out Barkley. Yeah, and just see who projects best that we can fit in the flex. I just want to see what it looks like if we do those couple of swaps. Okay, that works. We'll do a double tight end lineup here. I don't think this will project out quite as well, but maybe it will. We'll see. See here in a second. Jake DeWitt wants to know, play Alec Pierce instead of Adonai Mitchell or Downs. Yeah, looks solid, 83.5. So pretty comparable lineups. This one actually did come out a little bit better here. Alec Pierce, yeah, I think you could also go. Alec Pierce is a super, super boom bust option, but I wouldn't have an issue with him in GPPs either. My preference, though, is to go to Mitchell or Downs from the Colts. But that is going to do it for me, guys. But don't go anywhere. Next couple of hours, we are going, well, next 3 hours, actually. We are going to have deep dive, Laffy and Ben Raza, then Eric Lindquist and Matt Gajeski. They're going to close it out for you guys on Live Before Lock. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you all have a great day. Good luck, and I'll see you back on the channel tomorrow.
So what? Just ran cold in every aspect of life, like ice
Yeah,
cold?
life. Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, guess what? Put a smile on your face, brother. Hey, good morning. Welcome to the Stokastic.com NFL Deeper Dive. Little 10-game action today. Got football currently taking place in Germany. New York Giants, Carolina Panthers. What's the score? We still 7-0 in that game?
I have not seen a second of it.
Panthers just drive down the field, no problem. I mean, what a joke. I'll tell you, I liked Neighbors in this game too. And this is a good start. This is why I hate these early games. Because like
It sets the tone.
it sets the tone. And then I have to do a show while I'm constantly watching the game. You know, I might just turn it off. 0 receptions for Malik Neighbors against the Carolina Panthers. I bet New York at -5. It moves to -6.5. Like, boy, I'm on the right side of this one. Nope. They stink, Ben. Anyway, how you feeling?
I'm feeling good, ready to go, ready to dive into a Sunday manageable slate, 10 games. You know what? Vibes are good. We're gonna power through the show and see what we can find. I honestly, I haven't figured out. Normally when I get into the show, I do some preliminary sim runs. I have a decent idea. I'm not sure where this is gonna take me, to be honest.
Me neither. But I know there's a few spots that I want to get overweight on that the field isn't super high on right now. So we'll
Those are
talk
the
about
best.
all of that. By the way, I mean, the fact that last week I bet Jalen Coker, I didn't have any in DFS, but bet Jalen Coker at over 36.5. And he had 2 receptions on one drive for 36 yards in the early second, finished with 36 yards. He has 41 yards in the first quarter.
Of course he does.
Chuba Hubbard has 83 rushing yards in the first quarter. It's just the way things go. Enough about me. How you guys doing? Happy to have you guys with us. It's Sunday morning, and we got a lot of football to talk about. I'm with you. A lot of different ways, a lot of different directions this slate could take. When Greg and I did the Sims tournament strategy show on Friday, we were getting a lot of 2 tight end lineups. I assume we're still going to get a decent amount of that. There's not that outside of Mitchell with Pittman out, and even he is not like a like a bona fide stud play today at the value spot at all. Where's the value coming from? Like, get below 6K at running back. Good luck.
Oh yeah, it's not coming from there. You mentioned there's always 3K wide receivers, but when you talk about 3K wide receivers, from Mitchell to Coker to Jarrett to whoever, in the past month we've talked about, some of them have been Cedric Tillman, others have had 0 points. So it's just a massive, massive risk every time you dabble in that type of stuff. And we are starved for value a little bit. And that is why double tight end is going to be a pretty interesting build today.
Are you on board with it?
Definitely. I made a couple of like sketch lineups, and my favorite lineup, if I was playing one lineup today, it has double tight end.
Okay. And that would be in like some of the mid-stakes single entry stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't settled on what I'm going to do with this particular lineup, but I have a feeling I'll have some key lineups today that are 2 tight end.
Got it. Yeah, I just mean you get a little bit crazier if you're playing like the play action or the Millie or something.
Oh yeah, of course. I looked at this build and we're going to get into it. It's just, you start clicking a couple of, if you pay up at quarterback, you're going to be in trouble, not in a bad way, but you're going to be in trouble for value.
That's why we just have to play Mac Jones, right?
I mean, I play the Jaguars every week, so what's the difference?
Yeah. I say that somewhat tongue in cheek, but
only somewhat though.
I might get a little bit of Mac. He was sick in the preseason. I mean, look, the majority of time it's terrible, but he does still have 2 great pass catchers in Brian Thomas Jr. and Evan Ingram. So what if they're just what?
I don't know. For me, like, the moment isn't that big for him. Like, he's played. It's not like some unknown guy. He's not particularly, he hasn't been awesome by any stretch, but at least he's gotten reps. Like, he's started many football games.
Also, almost minimum salary.
Yeah, listen, we'll get to that game in just a few.
Okay. I like to pick your brain a little bit before we dive in. You know what I mean?
That's fine.
That's all. Anyway, happy to have you guys with us. Hey, you knew it was coming. Here it is. If you haven't done so, it's Sunday morning. We should be elsewhere, but we're here. Take a single second, hit that thumbs up, atone for your sins this beautiful morning. Subscribe to the channel as well. Ben will tell you it's 100% free to subscribe. Ben, if they hate it, they can click unsubscribe, forget we ever existed.
It's true. You just click that. Literally, you just have to click that button. Nothing else happens except you're part of the team.
That's it, baby. So let's get into it. Glad you guys could take some time to join us. And by the way, if you're watching the Germany game, have that on muted and check this one out. This is more important than the Germany game.
You mean the Hoffenheim soccer game? Because I would argue differently, but you're probably talking.
Yeah, I was talking about the.
I'm just saying, there's some good Bundesliga going on right now.
Yes, the Schwarzenheimer Germany soccer game is what I was referring to.
Can't wait. I'm gonna finish the show. Then Stuttgart played. We got a good afternoon on our hands.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
I'm sure you are.
I don't plan on watching any football today. All right, let's get into it. Pittsburgh at Washington. All right, this is the standard I ask you every week. Are you yet to buy into Washington's defense or this team in general? They're atop the NFC East. Of course, they haven't had their bye week yet, but are you buying in to the Jaden Daniels, Dan Quinn, new look Washington Commanders? Or do you think they're still vulnerable defensively, offensively, and there's maybe some spots we can target here for Pittsburgh?
So, I mean, obviously you're talking about some different sliding scales. I'm not super bought in that they're a serious threat in the NFC in life. But they've obviously made serious strides. They've got an absolute monster beast at quarterback. I still worry just personnel wise. It's funny when you get better, sometimes for DFS purposes, you get worse. And I worry about Washington in that mindset, just because this backfield has been absolutely brutal. Now we have, thank God, some clarity. It's a lot easier when you get one of them out of the picture. Then you got McLaurin on the outside. You've got some other pieces, but you're still against Pittsburgh's defense, who I really respect. It's a very competitive game. I think the books are not giving Washington a ton of love. You're inside a field goal home favorite here, and I don't think Pittsburgh's that good.
Yeah, I mean, I if you bet this game, would it be Pittsburgh or would it be Washington?
I mean, I'm not going to bet it at 2. If I had to bet this game, I would search very hard for a 3 and then pick Pittsburgh.
Okay, fair. I got Pittsburgh at 3.5 earlier.
Yeah, I mean, you did your job.
And here's why. It's kind of simple, right? It was, first of all, Mike Tomlin off a bye is dominant. Also, Mike Tomlin against rookie quarterbacks has been dominant. Does that mean he's won every one of those games? No, it doesn't. It just means it actually sets up as a decent spot for Pittsburgh. I look at it and I say, I probably don't get to much Najee Harris. Mike Williams is expected to be active, Ben. I don't really know what that means. Like, clearly he's untouchable. What I'm getting at here, though, is he doesn't take anything away from George Pickens. Pickens has been highly involved outside of that last game where they, had an easy win. Is the only question now that I have with Pickens is, are you just paying a little bit too much for George Pickens? Because yes. I think you are too. And it's unfortunate because, I'm a huge Pickens truther. I think he's really, really good. But you're paying a lot.
I mean, he's unbelievable. Big time receiver. He's had one game of double-digit targets on the year. And most of the time you're looking between like 5 and 7 targets. That's almost like $1,000 per target. I just made up a metric, but like, that's not good. I really worry about that at 68. So does he have home run ability? Does he have tournament equity? Of course he does, but we're talking about a lot of receivers in the plus or minus $500 from 6,800. So despite, I think, Pittsburgh having a decent matchup, I don't really see them factoring in. I'm not getting to Russell Wilson, and by an extension, then I'm not getting to much of the pass game.
It's tough. The only guy I would want to get to would be somebody like Pickens, and I just don't think at the price point that I'm going to get to much at all. Right now, I have less than 1% exposure to Pickens. I have no Najee Harris. I have no Russell Wilson. So I don't see it. It's a tough path to get there. I don't have any Steelers defense either, but on the other side, all right. So on the other side too, Like I have 1% McLaurin. How much McLaurin can you get to at this price point? He's been great, but he's not getting, he's not getting alpha target volume, and that makes it difficult to get there. I don't know what's the kind of, when you boil it all down to where the top options are at every position, like how much Eckler do you get to? How much McLaurin? Do you get to any Noah Brown or any of these guys?
So yeah, I mean, you start to get into price specific plays like Noah Brown. It's a little thin down there, so he does have, I think, some utility.
He's my highest owned player from this entire game. The 7% Noah Brown is my highest.
So you're short on Eckler then.
I'm short on Eckler, yes.
Okay, and that's reasonable. I think it's pretty clear to me that.
Oh no, I'm sorry. No, I'm not. I have, outside of Eckler, I have 18% Eckler. Outside of Eckler, Noah Brown is my second highest from this game.
That makes more. I was gonna say Eckler is clearly going to be the most popular play from this game for the field. That's a given. The thing I kind of like about Eckler is he's never someone where you're looking at the path and you're saying, okay, it's going to be on volume rushing. That's just not how it's going to be with him. He's going to get his carries and he's going to have maybe a third of his touches be targets, and that can really bolster the floor. Now, the tricky part is that even at 58, without scoring, it can be tricky. Now, can he score? Of course he can. He scored last week on 11 for 42, and then he had 4 more targets. I think he's a good pay down running back option. He is a far cry from, and the names are eluding me, but the past couple of weeks we've had a couple running backs that have been like, Chase Brown. Chase Brown was like 60% owned, and he should have been 100% owned in hindsight.
Yep. Told you he was going to decide my slate. Like because a guy's going to play every snap. He's going to get every snap.
Like that. Do you?
No, and it's a much tougher matchup.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
I mean, that was Chase Brown against the Raiders.
It's different for a lot of different reasons, for sure.
So yeah, your highest is Eckler still going to be like, I'm pretty much going to be around the field on Eckler, and I'm more than okay with that.
Yeah, he's not going to be an important piece for me in either direction. If I had to guess, I would bet I come in slightly underweight on Eckler, but not a major position.
Let's move on then. Let's talk about Buffalo and Indianapolis, because this is one of the spots that this is one of my favorite games of the week for a lot of different reasons. On one hand, with Buffalo, you've got, Josh Allen, who's just like against Indy in this spot, even dealing with injuries to Keon Coleman. They still have guys. We're still waiting on Amari Cooper. We don't have anything definitive last I looked, correct?
I haven't. If we have, I missed it. I haven't seen any clarity.
I haven't seen anything definitive on him either. Last I saw, he was a legitimate questionable, but I have a good amount of Shakir. I have a good amount of Kincaid. I have not a ton of Josh Allen, but I'm over the field on Josh Allen around that 10% mark, but a lot of Shakir, a lot of Kincaid. And then on the other side, there is one guy that I plan on boosting, and I will do that in the Sims. It's going to be Jonathan Taylor. If Mitchell is going to be the semi-chalk value option from this team, Josh Downs is clearly going to be popular. Buffalo they're a far cry from the defense that we've seen, in previous seasons, but they're still like the one spot that they've struggled more than anything is against running backs. You have a very good workhorse running back that is healthy, that you gave a lot of money to stay in Indy. His name's Jonathan Taylor. And, no teams allow more receiving yards, receptions, receiving touchdowns, targets to opposing running backs. They've coughed up big yards per attempt on the ground to running backs. And with Flacco in there, I think Taylor just sees a lot of volume today. He's a little bit expensive, which means that he'll be a little tougher to get to. He's still going to be kind of popular, but not crazy, not like Kamara popular. Taylor actually my favorite spot here, especially knowing how much ownership is going to these pass catchers with Pittman out.
Definitely, it's always nice. And listen, not everyone is going to do it like this, but there's always something to be said when you're able to kind of zig within a team and you're zigging to the best player. You know what I mean? That's nice. Like normally it's the other direction of let me take a flyer on the secondary player. You're doing the opposite. You're saying, okay, there's going to be a ton of people that go to a one-off Colts pass catcher, Jonathan Taylor is still the guy. I think that's pretty clear. And so I have no problem. This is a pretty good game.
Definitely.
You've got Shakir's going to be popular. FanDuel price is really nice as well. The targets are there. He should really rack up the PPR points. Kincaid, I mean, come on, guy. I have bet him to score, I think, like an insane amount of weeks in a row. I don't even have a word for it. You would think that he would get a boost in target share. The question I have is, what are you doing with Josh Allen?
Yeah, I have a decent amount. Not like I'm definitely more overweight as one-offs to the pass catchers here, but I have around 10% Allen right now, and I'm okay with it. Is he running as much as he has in the past? This is something that you've pointed out a lot about Allen this season, really since the offensive coordinator shift changed, what, like halfway through last year or something like that? You've definitely seen it where Allen's rushing upside hasn't been kind of as instrumental for this team as it has been in the past. He only has 3 rushing touchdowns, 211 rushing yards through 9 games. That's crazy. So yeah, I'm a fan of Allen. I still love the gunslinger mentality on a guy like this, especially in a game with a 47-point total against the Colts. Kind of a bend, don't break defense for them. Like they give up a ton of yards, but are decent in the red zone. Still like Josh Allen today, getting Josh Allen, but Shakir and Kincaid are my 2 most exposed guys, not only from this team, but from this game.
Yeah, I'm with you. And Josh Allen, I definitely like, and it may be a skinny with him, but that rushing upside is something to keep an eye on. He really needs that at times, but he's shown he can get there in so many different ways. It's just a tougher build when you pay up, but that can create leverage. And then last guy, he deserves at least a mention. James Cook has been awesome all year. The problem for me is just the price is at a point. I worry a little bit. You still have some cannibalization with Allen. He's in play, but I'll be honest, I like most of the backs just above him more.
I just have trouble at the price point.
Yeah. Yeah, it's premium.
And look, our friend Bunt Cake, right, took down the Millie. And he did so with James Cook on a day where nobody was playing it.
And the Bills defense.
And the Bills defense. So it isn't to say that James Cook can't have massive games. Of course he can. But it's just, I'm having a little bit tougher time getting there at his salary. He's the type of guy that plays like 50 to 55% of snaps a week. He does touch the ball a good amount, but you also get these games where he just kind of doesn't. And as good as he's been, I'm not going to end up with a ton of it. How much do you have right? Like, do you anticipate boosting him at all? Or you just think you get what you take on a guy like him?
More the latter. And even that, I'll put it like this. If I boosted James Cook, it would probably be down if I was somehow getting a lot of him. Yeah. I really have other priorities for Buffalo. I don't expect that to be a problem because I can't see a world where I'm just being fed James Cook lineups, but I'm not looking to get a healthy amount of him.
I'm with you. Plus, I have other priorities, not just with Buffalo, but also with running back. So yeah, it's kind of twofold there. Wrap this up with, so Josh Downs has obviously been pretty impactful. Pittman clearly was, like, it was pretty obvious, right? In that primetime game, the guy just wasn't healthy. Like something was wrong with him. And now it's evident. But Josh Downs has been targeted a lot by Joe Flacco. And, that isn't to say against Houston that he wasn't either with Anthony Richardson, but last game you saw, 9 targets from Flacco. He's the clear wide receiver 1. You're still going to have Alec Pierce, who's involved, particularly on those downfield plays, a lot riskier when you talk about an Alec Pierce. But then you have Mitchell. And I don't know what to do with Mitchell. I'm currently getting a lot, and I'm extremely tempted to try and get less of him. Like this is a guy that on the season has 140 yards, no touchdowns, a couple rushing attempts. Pittman's absence definitely makes a difference when you have a quarterback that's not going to be taking off and cannibalizing the passing game. And he's very cheap. He's close to minimum salary. But I don't know if I want my day being dependent on what Mitchell does for Indy either.
Oh, no doubt about it. I mean, again, this is what we talk about with these type of pay down options. It can open up salary. he obviously is going to have opportunity, but there's still a lot of unknowns here. So I get it. And he's going to factor in just because, again, you're starved for value. And yeah, I mean, Flacco also, it's worth noting, one game, but against Minnesota, he only threw the ball 27 times. So you look at a guy like Downs' target share, it's massive. And there could be more volume to go around today, particularly if they're trailing. And I think that's a pretty healthy assumption. So I get it. You've got these Colts pass catchers. I think they all carry some risk. Mitchell, to me, wild unknown, but yeah, I'm gonna definitely have some. There's no doubt about it.
How much Downs are you getting to?
Yeah, I mean, he's someone. He fits a lot of builds because he's in a 6,200 is a pretty good price. Floor is high. That range, it's got names, but no one like Shakir is in that range. But then you've got Worthy, DJ Moore, Marvin Harrison, Mooney got a bump, Pickens. I'm not like super excited by the range. So he's someone I'm definitely planning on getting, I'd say overweight. Where do we have him ownership wise?
Like 20%?
Yeah. So, I mean,
which sounds about right in this game.
It does sound about right, but it's going to be really interesting because look at this game. We have him around 20% and Shakir at 20%.
Yep.
Yet, look at Flacco, 5%, Josh Allen, 5%.
Isn't that something?
Yeah. So it just shows that most people are using these guys clearly as one-offs.
The Josh Allen, I understand. I kind of get it because Allen's expensive. You said already it's hard to stack expensive teams.
It is.
Because Shakir's not super cheap anymore. Kincaid's not dirt cheap for a tight end. He's getting around 17%. Yeah. Yeah, it's a fun game. This game could end up deciding the slate.
Key game, for sure.
Key game. Yes, it is. I think that's it, right?
Yeah.
You just can't play tight ends for Indy right now.
No, it's been that way. Indy, for going back all the way to like Dallas Clark, seems to carry like 10 tight ends. Honestly,
Yeah,
it seems illegal.
And they have 4 of them active every single week. My poor Jelani Woods. It's so sad.
4 active, but then it's someone I've never heard of every time.
Well, and I always go back to the day that I remember texting you like maybe 20 minutes into the slate and actually knowing that my entire day was over.
You have to narrow it down. Go ahead.
Who was the 3 touchdown guy from the Colts receiver, the tight end? He had 3 touchdowns and one of them was a rushing touchdown.
Oh, Ali Cox.
No, it was in the it was in the first half of the. Someone will tell me in chat. Someone will help me out. I always refer to it. It's a little early today, and I'm a bit tired, so my brain's not pulling it. But yeah, it was 3 touchdowns in the first half. One of them was.
I remember the rushing, but I thought it was
Eric Ebron. Thank you.
Oh. Yeah, I mean, don't even get me started with him.
Eric Ebron, man, good stuff.
I don't think of him as a Colt, but that's half the problem.
Was it not the Colts? Am I thinking of the wrong team?
He may have been on the Colts. He was just, I don't think of him as a Colt. I think of him as a Lion, obviously, but no, he was on the Colts for sure.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure his 3 touchdown game was for the Colts. It was 3 touchdowns versus Jags, 2018. Matter of fact, oh God, you're not going to like this.
Yeah, that sounds, go ahead.
It was on November 10th. Of
course it was. Yep.
Oh man.
That sums up a lot, honestly.
All right. Anyway, it might have been the 11th. The article might have been actually on that day. Either way, it was this week. We know that much. It was this week.
That bodes well.
Kill me. All right, let's keep going here. Talk about the next one. Minnesota at Jackson. Here's another one. You're right. When we open the show with you going, hey, I'm not sure what direction I'm going to get pulled in this week, you weren't lying. There's some wild games, and this game's got a 43.5 point total. Clearly dropped with the news that Trevor Lawrence wasn't expected to play. By the way, he's not officially ruled out yet.
This is such a Jags thing.
Exactly. And I know, like, okay, he's not going to play. Do you remember there were 2 separate incidents last year, 2 separate occasions where Trevor Lawrence was doubtful all week, did not get on the practice field, outside of like one limited practice. And we're like, man, this could be a month-long absence. Not only did he end up playing, I remember one of them was a Thursday night game against the Saints because I bet the under on his rushing because he had a severe ankle sprain. And he ended up rushing for like 30 yards on the first drive.
I remember that distinctly.
Yeah.
The season is kind of lost for them, so I don't know. I'm operating clearly that he's not going to play.
I don't think he's going to play. I'm just saying if it turns out that at 11:30 Trevor Lawrence is active and will start today in Jacksonville, I'd go against Minnesota. Of course he will, but whatever. Brian Thomas, Gabe Davis, they're both expected to play. You know, on the Minnesota side, if there's one pay-up option I like more than any pay-up option today, it's going to be Justin Jefferson.
He's in a phenomenal spot. We talked about on the First Look show. He checks every single box. The biggest issue with him, the slate didn't open up as much as I thought it would for value. So am I going to make room for him? Absolutely. It's just not that easy to build with him. And you also have Aaron Jones, who I like quite a bit as well today. So Minnesota's a really good team. You've got two top-end options.
Yep. And it is difficult to get away from these guys. I don't have a ton of Jefferson, but I think that price point's a bit prohibitive, but I will in fact make sure that I get a little bit more of him. I told you earlier today, there's just a couple spots that I care about getting to, you know, other spots I'll just let the Sims do the work.
Mm-hmm.
Now, granted, does Jefferson need a really big game here? Absolutely. But also I am very much over the field on Aaron Jones. Currently my second highest exposed running back on the day. And I'm not going to fight that even a little bit.
No, he just great. If you look at his anytime touchdown prop, he's got great scoring equity. The volume will be there. The game script should be there. Even though it feels, you know, I could speak to both sides of this. One, obviously Minnesota should be playing from ahead. Two, it just goes to show you, by the way, like the Jaguars are a 7-point underdog with all this nonsense. Like they easily could still compete in this game, even though it feels like they're overmatched.
7 points, yeah.
7 points is nothing. Like
how many 7-point dogs have won outright this year?
100% of them from a survivor standpoint. Every single one, it feels like.
No joke, though. Through the first, I think, 4 weeks or 5 weeks of the season, they were above 500 straight up. Not just against the spread, because against the spread, the number was preposterous. It was like 16-1. But straight up, they had a winning record through the first 4 or 5 weeks of the season. We knew that was going to come back down to earth, right? We knew that was going to balance itself out. But yeah, I mean, this is where I wanted to go with you here, though, is outside of Jefferson and Jones, two obvious plays. Well, the first question I'd ask you is, would you play both of those guys in the same lineup without Darnold today? Because they are expensive.
You can do it. But no, I think it would have to be in some type of specific format more so than a lineup that I think in large fields can get there. That's just too much. Even if they both had big games, it seems too much salary.
Yeah, it is. That's what I was going to clarify. Like, what if Jefferson was 8K and Jones was 6K? Then it looks a whole lot different. But
yeah,
it's tough. Are you going to like Addison or Naylor or Hawkinson today?
Not really. The problem is you just rattled off 3 names, and we already talked about 2 big-time weapons. So I get it. If I had to go to one, it would be Hawkinson, just because of the unknown. The guy's working back. We saw him once. If he continues to progress, his price will continue to progress, but he's not starting from a position of like, oh, he's 3K and now watch him climb. He's already at 47. Like I don't really jump at the chance to do that.
I think Hawkinson is the clear third option that I'd get to, though, in Minnesota.
Agreed.
Over Addison and over Naylor. Definitely over Naylor. But the reason I think I'd go to him over Addison is because, you know, when you look at these two players, I would assume that Hawkinson gets worked in more than he did last week. He had no setbacks, so why would he not just be pretty soon at full go? I just wouldn't want to pay more for Addison than Hawkinson, $600.
Yeah, that's a reasonable take. It's a team that I really am keeping it very simple in the sense that they've got two absolute stars, and I will target those guys.
What are your thoughts on the other side with Mac Jones? I know we kind of joked about it earlier, but he is 4,400. He does still have, it's a tough defense. Brian Flores has done a great job. You know, they bounced back after that 2-game loss, really put the clamps on Joe Flacco and company. But they're at home. They may be playing from behind. I mean, look, the best play from behind the DFS quarterback play we've ever seen came from this Jacksonville team not too long ago. Who was that?
What?
The best play from behind DFS, specifically DFS quarterback play that we've ever seen throughout a season was a Jacksonville Jaguars quarterback and team.
Ooh, Bortles?
Bortles and Allen Robinson.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Allen Robinson's like simultaneously on like 6 different teams. You ever notice that?
Yeah, I've noticed that. Yeah. You can't tell me you don't remember these Bortles games that were out of control.
Vaguely.
They'd be down 30 or 20, and then he would just end up. I mean, this is a long time ago. It's probably like 2017 now. But he had a year where it was just like you go out there and Blake Bortles would be chucking no matter how bad they were.
Maybe we get that today. I don't think so, but maybe we do.
I don't think so either. How much worse is Mac Jones than Trevor Lawrence?
I mean, that's how much time do we have? But yeah, the thing is, you know, you could take it 2 different directions. One is the easy one. This guy sucks, and you're targeting a huge opportunity cost. If he gives you 10 real life points, it's just not going to get it done. But then on the other side, you're like, okay, how often do I get a $4,400 starting QB at home who could throw the ball 30 plus times? That's very appealing. You know, we've seen that work at times. So I get it. I think what a lot of people will do is they'll build the Jacksonville stack, they'll run it back with Jefferson, and that'll be how they construct, and then they'll fill in the rest. Not opposed to that, but I will try to change up the Jacksonville situation if I get any. I'm not sure I'm going to get any Mac Jones, though, to be honest. Not ruling it out, but not positive.
I also have very little interest in forcing runbacks with Minnesota stacks.
Yeah, because there's we've seen, one of my favorite things about the tools is it's given me clarity on like what you quote unquote need to do, and it's clear now that you don't need to run it back at all. Can you at certain times? Of course, but you absolutely do not have to.
No, and I've completely stopped forcing any of those spots at all.
Same.
It's not necessary anymore. Yeah, 2015 Jaguars, Ben, were 5-11, and Allen Robinson had a 1,400-yard season with 14 touchdowns.
Yeah, I mean, Jacksonville's had some dudes. Justin Blackman.
Yeah, they were 5-11 though, is what I'm saying. It's pretty amazing. Pretty good stuff. Bortles, yeah, 35 touchdown passes that year, 18 interceptions, almost 4,500 passing yards. Come on.
Yeah, that's a year.
That's a hell of a year, man. Who was the other receiver?
Cecil Shorts.
No, it was Alan Hearns.
Alan Hearns one time made me a lot of money.
Was he in your second place Millie
He
lineup?
was. I think he was on the Dolphins at the time, but I always have he was the literal difference in that lineup. He was like 1% owned. He had like 4 touchdowns.
Really?
Yeah.
Awesome.
I always.
So that year they went 5-11. Alan Hearns had 1,010, and Robinson had 1,414. Look, this isn't me like making a argument for Mac Jones. What I'm saying is garbage time is actually a thing. And Blake Bortles was the king of garbage time. So, you know, in the smaller contests like the mini max, first down, play action, where you just have to get insane, I think I will try and get like 5% Mac Jones. What does it matter? It doesn't really cost anything in those contests at all. Cost nothing.
No, I mean, again, you can always make a a case for that because the ability to get different permutations of pay up wide receivers or running backs is going to be really, really useful. It's just a matter of how much are you behind at quarterback, even if he plays well. Say Mac Jones plays decent, you're still probably dodging the Josh Allen like nuclear games on a raw point standpoint, particularly if the superstars don't carry you.
That's true, unless it's like a Mac Jones stack that opens everything else up.
But all that does is set the table for Jefferson to get like 40 and Kamara to get like, if they just have middling games, there are too many mid-range plays that probably keep pace, and then you can't make up the difference in the quarterback points.
It's possible. Which, by the way, though, if I'm stacking Mac Jones with I'm definitely playing Justin Jefferson.
That's what I'm saying. The correlation between Mac Jones and Jefferson in the same game is going to be insane.
Got to be nuts. Yeah, you're right. Then it just comes down to, does anyone have Mac Jones? Someone will.
Yeah, they all will have Jefferson though. Like if I'm not saying I'm going to do this, but if I play Mac Jones in that stack, I might look to AJ Brown.
Ooh.
And just hope that he can outscore Jefferson on a raw points and then box everybody out.
Would you fade Aaron Jones there too?
I might take a piece.
Darnold just spreads it around everywhere.
Possibly. You'll be much more leveraged that way. It's just also probably ends poorly.
Jalen McMillan, good to go for Tampa, by the way. All right, let's talk about Denver and Kansas City. I don't know where you're at on Denver.
Yes.
I mentioned this last week going into that game against, was it Baltimore, right? That I liked Baltimore a lot. Didn't anticipate myself getting really anything there. If you had Sutton, you would have been okay. But I didn't have really anything from Denver there. I think that they are on an upward trajectory. I like Bo Nix's future. However, I'm just not getting to much. Like I have 3% of some of these cheap wide receivers, 3% Cortland Sutton. That's all I have. I have nothing at the running back position. Trace amounts of Broncos defense because I know why. It's just getting me to some more expensive builds. It's opening some things up, but that is it. Really not huge on Denver. If anything, I would have bet them at 9.5 point dogs. It's 7.5 now. So that's it for me.
Cool real life game, pretty dire, even on 10 game slate. It's just, I really respect Kansas City's defense in Arrowhead. There's not a lot that I like from Denver here. It's a pass for me.
Would you say that Kansas City is a priority spot for you in any stretch? Like DeAndre Hopkins Monday night looked fantastic. I mean, he looked like prime DeAndre Hopkins. That one downfield catch with, draped with the defender draped all over him, 2 touchdowns. He's $5,300 today. Isaiah Pacheco is still out, so you still have Kareem Hunt. Now, I will say, I still do have some respect for this Denver defense, but I have less respect for this defense than I did. Okay, so coming into last week, I looked at this team and I went, they're way better than anyone thought they were. That can't even be questioned. Mm-hmm. But also, they're not nearly as good as their recent 5 and 6 win stretch would indicate when they were beating up on really bad football teams, right? So it's somewhere in the middle with this team. And I think if you're getting to Kelsey, you're happy with it. If you're getting to some Hopkins, you're happy with it. I'm personally right with the field on Hopkins. I have 17% Kelsey, 6% Mahomes, 5% Kareem Hunt. So I do have Kansas City, but I'm not going to be overloaded really anywhere, it looks like.
I'm in the same bucket. You've got big time weapons, but you've got a couple of them, and they're all similar price points. They need to get some volume, and I wouldn't be stunned to see some of them. Tight end, again, we talked about potentially double tight end, and I'm sure people will have Kelsey +1 at a flat 6K price tag. Kareem Hunt's still getting crazy volume, and Hopkins showed life. I'm fine with any of them, but at the same time, to be completely honest, I'm not prioritizing any of them either. Like, I wouldn't be uncomfortable getting to one KC guy in a random lineup, but if I don't, I'm fine with it, to be honest.
We had a question from Sean to you. Is Hunt a pivot off of Aaron Jones? I'll throw it to you, but I'd say I still do like Aaron Jones a lot more. Hunt's been good, but it's been strictly volume, like pure volume. I expect him to get it. It's not the best matchup, but maybe you feel differently than I do.
No, I mean, it's all relative. Is he a pivot of Aaron Jones? The answer is yes, he is. But it's not a pivot that I'm looking to make unless I really am, for some reason, in need to do that. And I'm not sure what those circumstances would be. So I have Aaron Jones as one of my favorite options on the slate. And of the 3 Kansas City players, if I had to order them, I would have Kelsey 1, Hopkins 2, Hunt 3.
Yeah, me too. Would you put Mahomes 4, or are you just talking skill players?
I mean, it's kind of hard with that because, like, when you say Mahomes, it brings in those guys again. I'm gonna again run our tools and lean on the data. If I got a Mahomes +2, I think that might be a pretty cool build today. I'm interested a little in maybe grouping him, Hopkins, and Kelsey, but only if it checks out and if it's a really low on stack and it grades out well.
I'm actually not opposed to it, and I'm getting to some of it.
I'm not shocked. Yeah.
Right. And you know, you're pretty sharp when you see these possibilities, speaking to you specifically. And I would assume one of the things that would open your eyes a bit is when you go, all right, well, Mahomes hasn't been great. He was good against Tampa, but he hasn't been great from a fantasy standpoint. That's objectively true over the last, 1.5 years. And he's been devoid of weapons. They've had injuries and stuff like that. So if you want me to make excuses or if you wanted to make excuses for him, go ahead. But he's a mid 6K price point. He's 5.5% owned right now. And then Hopkins is underpriced. So you're looking at Hopkins at 5,300. You have Kelsey at, what's he at? 6K flat.
That's what I mean.
It is kind of the cheap. Like if you assume that Hopkins is good again and was never not good, he just didn't have a quarterback, and then Mahomes can still have a good game, it's really the cheapest Kansas City stack you're ever going to get. If they go off today, this will be nothing close to it going up through the rest of the season.
Yeah, at home in Arrowhead, like there are worse situations than that. So keep that in mind. That's about it though for the game. I didn't bet the game. I have no take on the game.
All right. DFS had nobody touching Worthy. He's tough to get to right now. I mean,
I'm in pain. I had a first touchdown scoring ticket with him last week, which sums up my life and my week.
That's tough. But when but at this point in DFS, when you're $800 more than Hopkins, could he have one of those crazy plays and he scores a 60-yard touchdown? Yeah. But for a guy that was essentially not targeted last game to pay 800 more than Hopkins, you're going to have a tough time doing that. I personally don't have any of him. Another reason too, to your point earlier, Khalil Shakir and Josh Downs are the same price.
Yeah. I mean, he got -1 last week. That's hard to do.
Did he finish what did he have? A negative rushing attempt?
He had 2 carries for -10 yards.
Oh, that's good.
So
that is difficult to do.
Yeah, that's tough.
All right. Keep it moving here. Appreciate, by the way, you guys being with us this morning. If you don't mind, take a second, hit that thumbs up. Goes a long way for us. I actually forgot. Just did so now. 360.
Oh, I did too. I take that back then.
Yeah. Yeah. So, just do us to help us feed the algorithm. It goes a very long way for us. Atlanta and New Orleans. All right. Wow. Here you go. New Orleans only 3.5. Like this is the type of dead cat bounce where the Saints just end up winning.
Yeah. All these divisions, we have seen this in every division because it's always, the Ravens and Cleveland. There was another, when you go on the road in your division, it's almost impossible to be a decisive favorite.
So true. So true. Unless you have like the Bills against the Patriots. I'm talking from a spread perspective, but even in those weird games.
No, they're just weird though.
You saw the Patriots. I'm not saying the Jets are great, but you saw the Patriots beat the Jets. Jets were what, 7-point favorites? Yeah. Any of those games, it can happen, as gross as it looks. How about, I'll give you a great one. And we both bet this too, so that was good stuff. But what about Cleveland against Baltimore a couple weeks ago?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, again, it's just tough. And these teams, it's the Falcons too. So you have to factor that in, that they don't know what they're doing.
Drake London's good to go. I like him today. Definitely like him. The defense for the Saints. I mean, no matter what you say, they're bad, right? They're not good. And Marshawn Lattimore's gone, right?
Yep.
He's in Washington. He wouldn't have played anyway, but they're struggling. This team has dealt with injuries all year long on the offensive line, on defense. I think you have to be looking at targeting some of these players from Atlanta. Drake London being one of them. McKinstry's still out. They're missing several players in the secondary already. Paulson Adebo's on the IR. Like they've kind of been gutted there, right? So just looking over Atlanta, where are the options, the priorities? Do we go to Pitts? Do we look to a Kyle Pitts today and say, you know what? He's not very popular at a tight end position that never has great options. Do we get to Kyle Pitts at 5 or sub 5%? Do we go right back to London, who got hurt early with that hit pointer? Do we look to Bijan and hope that, you know, with his touches and involvement in the passing game, that he goes off and Algier stays out of his way?
You can, I mean, the easy answer is yes. You can target Atlanta up and down the board. We've seen some sliding scales. You know, we were talking several times about, you know, the relationship with Kyle Pitts versus Ray McLeod, and then London's got hurt. Bijan has been really steady and really solid, but you've mentioned to me, I think every show, rightfully so, that, you know, you can't forget about Algier because he is a factor in taking some of that volume. But having said that, I still do have interest in Atlanta. I think for me, it's the main weapons. You mentioned Drake London, fine with him. Bijan, I'm just going to continue to keep playing. I like him quite a bit. I'm not as interested as the rest. You're the Mooney whisperer. I just look at that price and I'm a little freaked out. This is a guy that was in the fours for the first half of the season, and now he's 6,500.
It is without question a pretty difficult price point for me to get to. Yeah, I don't think I do that today. Let's see. I'll tell you right now. Let's see if I'm getting to Darnell. My guess is no. I have like 2 lineups with Darnell Mooney. I have 12% London though. I have a good amount of Drake London, and I'm okay. I'm very much okay with that. And I have 13% Bijan Robinson. So that's where I am right now. How much Cousins am I getting to? That's
what I was going to ask you.
Not a lot.
Not
1%. Little surprised by that. The Cousins, Drake, Pitts lineups kind of appeal to me. It's just now that this team has Mooney as well, and Bijan and Algier, it can be tough to get the stack right.
Of course. Atlanta could have a huge game and you could target them and you still get it wrong. They're that type of team now.
So how do you prioritize Atlanta then?
It's their main weapons. I don't think it's a great team for flyers, to be completely honest. Like Bijan, Drake London. Pitts is fine, but ironically, I feel like tight end is pretty deep.
Metaphorical gun to the head, Ben. It always reminds me of the couples retreat. You've seen that with Vince Vaughn and John Favreau? No, it's a great movie. Good movie. Never seen that?
No.
All right.
Jennifer
well, I'm not
Aniston
even.
in it?
What's that?
Is Jennifer Aniston in it?
I don't think she is in that one. No.
Nah.
I wish she was.
Yeah, I'm sure you do, but no, I don't know the movie. Go ahead.
Well, I'm not even going to say it. I'm going to request that you watch the movie, and next time I propose this,
yeah, I'll get right on that.
You're going to be well equipped to understand where I'm coming from. All right. Just, put it on the list. You're not very busy right now, right?
No, no. I'm just I'm busy at all.
Metaphorical gun to your temple. We just got this will be removed from YouTube very shortly. Overweight or underweight to Alvin Kamara? Because I don't think it's about that. I just want to be with the field.
Step one is where Alvin Kamara. Do you think he comes in over 30% owned?
What do I have?
Just shy of that right now.
When I ran the sim, the pool ownership was 28%.
Okay. If he's 28%, I'll be over.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think so. I'm not crazy, but yeah.
So you're saying, like, if we updated this, he's 38%, which just, it's not going to happen. We're too close to the slate lock.
That would.
That would change things for you?
I mean, I don't know if it would change. It would change certainly the leverage I'm getting. Then it would be negligible at best. There's too many other running backs, and it's still a Saints team that, they got problems. But I just look at Kamara. It's insane. I mean, he had 29. Everyone knows this. He had 29 carries and 9 targets. He's got 39 carries in the last 2 games. He has 20 targets in the last 2 games. That is the type of volume. It doesn't really matter what you're doing. The guy's got a whopping 0 touchdowns in the last 2 games, and I would still sign for all of it.
You don't have much of a choice here. He's my highest exposed running back right now. The only thing I ever worry about with Kamara is that they just have nobody else. But I will say this much. You know why this worries me less than it did earlier in the year? Because we can talk shit on Derek Carr all we want. And you know what? It'd be largely justified. Okay. However, he's still better at getting the ball to Alvin Kamara than Spencer Rattler was.
He knows the assignment.
Correct.
Just hit the ball to Kamara.
Correct. Yep.
Give the ball to Tucker. Shout out Hey Arnold. You ever see that episode?
Hey Arnold?
Yeah, you never watched it. You're watching Couples Retreat, but you never seen Hey Arnold?
Of course I've watched Football Head.
Okay.
But but I don't remember specific episodes. No, I would have been like 7.
You're not busy filming portfolio EV videos. Go back and watch that episode.
Yeah, that's
chat knows.
You're asking me to watch a child show.
Whatever. You have kids. Go.
Oh, you must be so stoked that the Christmas season's coming up. You can just bam watch Jingle All the Way.
I got it queued up. I'm ready. Only a couple more weeks.
Serious question.
Yes.
Very serious question. Do you like Christmas movies or do you just like Jingle All the Way? Because I'm a big Christmas.
Love Christmas movies. I only watch them in December. That's a rule.
That's fair. Like Christmas Story with Ralphie.
Never seen it, but the
of course you have. Of course.
Home Alone 3, Jingle All the Way,
you like
Die Hard.
You just like the shit. You don't like, and not the shit as a good way. I'm saying the actual shit. You like Home Alone 3 better than 1 and 2? You can't.
No, okay, I didn't say that. I didn't.
You would have lost. Seriously, you would have lost a ton of credibility.
No, that's why I didn't say that. No, I just like it. It's much better than people think. It's not that big of a drop off from 1 and 2. That's all.
Have you seen the Christmas Chronicles with Kurt Russell?
No.
Okay, so my daughter was watching it, and I started watching it. What?
Yes, that seems like is that a real thing that kids watch, or just parental control is optional down there?
Yeah, it's the Christmas Chronicles. It's not porn.
Okay, well, I assume, how many times has she seen Bad Santa already? Don't lie.
A couple of times. I got
her. Yeah, exactly.
I got her a stuffed purple elephant for Christmas. Yeah. No, it's great though, especially if you have kids. What a fantastic movie. Kurt Russell's the man. Anyway, where were we? Atlanta, New Orleans.
Mm-hmm.
Kamara, but aside from him, with Chris Olave out, with Rashid Shaheed out, Mason Tipton's not cheap enough. Bub Means is on the IR. They have to throw to somebody. So is it just like, is Jawan Johnson just the guy here, the next best option?
Okay. Being serious, not joking. I know I say this about receivers, but how many teams is MVS on? No joke. Like, wait, what? I'm looking at the thing. MVS.
Yeah, they elevated him a couple weeks ago.
Okay. The thing about the Saints, honestly, you can play roulette and maybe one of these guys has a game. But to me, why not just go to Kamara? Or I don't do this as often as other people. I do think that Taysom Hill is going to have his chances. I mean, he's always someone that has worked in. He had 5 carries and a touchdown last week. He had 5 targets last week. I think he sees around those 10 opportunities. And at flat 4, I'm going to work him right into the pool.
Yeah. All right. Oh, I was, how much are you going to get of him?
Of Taysom Hill?
Yeah.
Well, let's see.
He did score last week. It's just tough for Taysom Hill to have those big games.
Yeah.
Although last week at 4K, you would have been very happy with The 16, right?
Yeah, I mean, the thing that's crazy, normally I would say, and it proved not true last week, but Taysom Hill, the allure of him is if he has a big game, he kills Kamara to some extent, even though Kamara's volume based right now.
Right. Is Kamara your favorite play from the entire game?
Yeah, but I think that's pretty in line with the field.
Yeah. So what you're saying is even if they kind of bottle him up, it might not matter. Just so we're clear before I move on.
I don't see how if Kamara has 30 plus touches again, I don't see how, not that I don't see how he can have a bad game. He absolutely could. I don't see how I'll regret having a heavy exposure to him.
Okay. We had a super chat from Yobi Trice. What's up, man? Is it crazy to fade Kamara today? I like the idea of pivoting Taysom to tight end while using Swift and Aaron Jones while stacking Rodgers and Adams.
That all makes complete sense to me.
Sure.
Yeah.
Plus, I like Swift and Jones quite a bit too. No issues with that.
I love that mentality. That's how you have to think it through, though. Like, okay, I'm not just fading Kamara. What could be the scenario? Maybe Taysom Hill vultures him twice. Maybe the mid-range running backs have enough raw points to keep it stable, and then I'm using that extra salary at a different stack. That doesn't mean it's going to work, but I'm absolutely in line with that.
Michael asked, thoughts on playing Stevenson for the Patriots? Seems sneaky. Windy game, possibly rainy game. Yeah, it's just tough for me because without the scoring, he's not like they can't run block at all. And I know that's the weakness for Chicago, but they can't run block. Look at his production. If you took his his touchdowns out recently, Stevenson would be one of the least effective running backs in the entire league.
I bet the Bears. So that shows you where I'm at.
So did I. I thought, and based on what I've done with the Giants so far, I'll be wrong. But God, they're terrible, man. They are terrible. But this matchup just seems to align perfectly for Chicago, coming off a couple really ugly games. We'll get there. We'll get there. Hey, by the way, we still have, what do we have? 2 hours until lock, right? 2 hours until lock still. We talk about the Sims, like where we're getting our exposures. Jordan's been throwing the Sims up on the screen, navigating through that for those of you guys who aren't subs to see for yourself. If you wanted to just instantly start making better lineups, whether it's with the Sims, whether it's with the single lineup sim, we showcase it every week, every Wednesday, and on these shows as well. The single lineup sim where you can hand build your lineup so you can still stick to a process maybe that you love and then get instant feedback on that with the simulated results. So like you go, okay, I love hand building, but I need to take my game to 2024, evolve with the way DFS is being played. We build a tool specifically for that. Then you have the Sims where you don't need to hand build it. All of this stuff. And if any of you guys have lineups you want Jordan to run, I'm sure he would do so for you if you wanted to throw them in there. The boom bust tool, top stacks tool, which is hugely impactful. That's how Bunt Cake won the Millie. He said, I used the boom bust tool because he's a sub to our tools, rocking the avatar, all that good stuff. I use the boom bust tool, find some spots that I really like, and I make some adjustments in the Sims. I massage them a little bit. Everyone has their own process. But projections, ownership, premium Discord access. If you're wondering why I'm saying this, it's because that first link in the description and the one that Jordan can throw in the chat right now, you're getting a free month of any sports you want just by signing up with any of our sportsbook partners. It's so simple. So the link is down there. You click that link or it's in chat. Scroll down, you'll see claim offer for any of these books. And if you're in non-legal betting states, guess what? You can still do it because all of the pick'em sites on there are included. As long as you click claim offer and follow the steps, you're in. You can stack them too. What do you mean stack them? I mean, if you went, all right, I want Bet365, let me grab my 150 in bonus bets. That's $10 deposit, 150 in bonus bets. Let me go BetMGM as well. That's a $10 deposit, 200 in bonus bets. Not bad. And let me do Caesars as well. That's another $10 deposit. That's $30. Say you did 3. That's 3 full months of Sims Core, $99 value. So 300 on the DFS side, any sports that you want. Also, all of the bonuses you're getting on the betting side. Just sign up with the claim offer, choose whatever books you want, as many as you want, use that. And then once you do so, after your first bet settles, like you could bet on today's 1 p.m. games, you could bet the first drive, and when it settles, just email us a screenshot of your first settled bet. email us. It's all up here. Email us your welcome, screenshot us your welcome email, and just email it to support@stokastic.com. It's the best promo we've ever done, Ben. So great time for the people to get involved.
Of course, yeah. It really is the best time of the year, and that's why we wanted to offer this at a time where you instantly see that value coming back. And enough said. I mean, I know a ton of you, the last thing, you get Discord. It's included. So if you're saying, man, this is awesome, but I don't know where to begin, get in there with the hundreds of other people who have already done this and ask your questions. We're in there as well supporting. You will not be left on an island where you say, great, now I have all these tools for 3 months and I don't know what the hell I'm doing. It is a far cry from that. It's a great community, all working together, new strategies on these tools.
Yeah, man. Check it out. Get on it. Bruce Weber, best promos ever. Thanks, Laffy and Ben.
You're welcome. Maybe that's the former coach. You know, Bruce Weber?
Maybe. I don't know. I doubt it.
I doubt it too. If it is, sir, I appreciate you, but you owe me a lot of money over the years. A lot of money.
But welcome to the team at Stokastic and join the Discord. Say hello. San Francisco, Tampa Bay. Are you McCaffrey's back? They're 6.5-point favorites. Are we doing it? I think this is the craziest spot of the slate.
Is it though? Like, maybe I'm
okay. Well, I'll ask you this. Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but let me just preface it. What is McCaffrey's price point? What is McCaffrey's price point if there are no question marks?
I don't think it's that much higher. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Okay.
Like 86?
I do.
Okay. Maybe I forgot how just dominant he is.
I definitely think it would be more than 86. Maybe I'm wrong. Let me see it. Let me look up the historical salaries on this guy. Yeah, dude, last year he was. Hold on, let me make sure this is DraftKings.
You got him in Showdown, captain.
He peaked at 9.5 last year, but for almost every week he was in the like 93 to 9,400 range. It's pretty expensive.
You like the matchup?
As a pass catching back, yeah. On the ground, not as much, but we still saw Kareem Hunt grind out 100 yards. I just don't know how much he's going to play. I have to ask you about him though, right? Because it'd be crazy for us to just go, nah, man, McCaffrey doesn't get worked in enough. He's not viable at 8K. Like we've seen weirder shit happen. Puka Nacua came back. I was flat out wrong in that primetime game. He ended up having 100+ yards. He hadn't even touched the practice field in 8 weeks or 6 weeks.
I mean, that was just stupid, but yeah.
I agree.
I get it. The thing is, and we'll say it's not like he's chalk by any stretch. I expected, and again, this is just me being wrong. This is why I lean on our information. I would have expected Christian McCaffrey to be like 2% owned. And then I would have had a decision. He's grading out as the same, popularity as guys like Saquon. That's surprising to me. It was an Achilles.
Not a tear though.
No, I know, but it's not like a concussion or something where like, is it impossible to think that Mason is still not, like these backup running backs don't factor in more?
All right, let's have some fun. What do you think his touchdown prop is?
McCaffrey's?
Yeah.
Minus 130.
Minus 200.
See, that's, I wish I could short that.
You can't, you can't bet on Pinnacle.
No.
Rushing yard prop 67.5, between 64.5 to 67. I'm not even going to include ESPN bet. Receiving yards for McCaffrey 27.5. So his rushing plus receiving is on FanDuel 99.5 today and minus 200 to score.
It's solid, obviously. But even pasting that all together, 8K?
Yeah, I mean, what's Barkley's? 112. rushing plus receiving. Total touchdowns anytime minus 175. So
I just figured that the allure of Christian McCaffrey today would be the unknown. At 11% or 12%, I'm not as interested in that concept because the unknown might be that he works back to it is not impossible that after the slate, we look and we say there was basically 0% chance that McCaffrey could have got you there because his role was incremental and he's not back fully.
right.
That's not
Right.
impossible.
I don't even disagree with you because he's 11%. If McCaffrey was like sub 5%, I think I would be well over the field.
I think I would be over the field just on principle.
Definitely. Someone asked if you could lock in a guaranteed 20 from Bijan, would you play him over the McCaffrey mystery spot? I wouldn't. 20 is not enough in tournaments on a Sunday.
No, I wouldn't either.
We had a super chat from Goody. What's up, brother? This man knows super chat etiquette. Take notes. He just gets it. And thank you. Getting a ton of Purdy and 0 Mayfield, even without a wide receiver 1, Mayfield still getting it done with fantasy points. Mayfield seems like an obvious pivot, but who to stack him with is the question. DK 20 max. It is tough, right? Because you have Otten, and then what are you doing? Like Jalen McMillan, who was out last game, and Shepard still only saw 5 targets. It has become difficult for me. And it's like, oh yeah, no, I'll stack him maybe with a Rashad White, but then you have Bucky Irving in the passing game as well. Honestly, I get the Purdy exposure. He's currently my highest owned quarterback.
Purdy is?
Purdy is, yep.
And what are you doing with like Purdy +2 and it's Kittle and Jennings or
So
like
I can just toggle stack exposure. Jordan, you
Yeah.
can look at your run too. And by the way, I will rerun this. Like we'll do updates
course.
throughout after we get done the show. Matt and Eric coming up next at 11:30. Make sure to stick around for that. Those guys will give you very important insight and news with us getting these injury reports sooner than later. But let's see, I'll tell you, I have 13% Brock Purdy skinny stacks and 14% Brock Purdy double stacks, 2% triple stacks.
Okay. Yeah, that I mean, not going to push back on that. That makes a ton of sense. He grades out. He's got reasonable weapons. I'll be interested to see how much, if more for you than me, how much Purdy with McCaffrey you got.
Not a lot.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Not a ton. I have 14% Debo, 13% Juwan Jennings, which I think is perfectly fine. He's a little pricey, but not crazy. Do I have any Ricky Pearsall?
Probably
Not really. One
sliver.
lineup. I just want to check Kittle real quick, man. Okay, there you go. I have 24% George Kittle.
I get it.
That's it. Yeah, that's the one right there. So where we're at. I like San Francisco quite a bit today. The Sims do. I like them. I think getting McCaffrey back in this lineup makes a really considerable difference as well. Shout out to Jordan Mason. Admirable effort filling in for the best running back in the world, but it's just not the same.
No, it's not. But I don't know. And this is again the unknown. Does he become an afterthought or does he keep some of his work?
Oh, I was just saying that I think the offense is functions a lot better. Talking Purdy stacks here.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. There's just no doubt.
Yeah, I wasn't even relating that back to McCaffrey's
Gotcha.
workload.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I'm just saying I think they look better as a team, right? Something was missing this year, and I think we know what it is. So, yeah. How do you approach Tampa?
I mean, I'll be honest, it's a really tough team to approach because I look at them and their situation is just, okay, you've got 2 backs at basically the same price. I'm not super enamored with getting to either of them. Then you go to the tight end. Okay, Cade Otton. He's been awesome. 10, and 11. So clearly he's in play, but we just talked about Kittle. We've talked about Pitts. We talked about Kelsey. We've talked about a lot of tight ends. So Cade Otton's firmly in play, but he's got options all over the place. Then you go to wide receiver. I mean, I don't know what the hell's going on. You got guys all over the place, in and out of the lineups. McMillan is here. Raheem Jarrett, I don't know much about him, to tell you the truth. Like, it's just a flyer at best. I'm basing, my thoughts on these guys are, I know them from college. It's just, there's a lot of names in a super condensed range for Tampa's passing attack.
I know it's tough.
Like,
I
who the
do-
hell's, yeah,
Goody
I
was-
don't know.
Goody was saying he's not getting any Mayfield. I am. I have like 10% Baker right now.
How are you doing it?
It's a great question. Let me see. Let me just go to my lineups. I'll filter by Baker. By the way, Ivan got Yokes asked in chat. What's up, Ivan? Said, is Jordan Mason the mega mind genius play of the week? No, I'll be honest. I think he might be the worst overall play on the entirety of the slate.
Definitely don't play him.
Jordan Mason is priced like Christian McCaffrey is not playing. I don't know what he's at on FanDuel. I can look. Jordan could pull that up, but even so, I wouldn't do it.
No.
There's too many good running backs too.
Yeah, if this was Showdown or something, it would be maybe in the conversation. But
yeah. No, but even at this price, if you translated this to a Showdown price, you still couldn't touch him.
I mean, yeah, it's just. Ooh,
All right,
Amari's
so-
out.
How much, Jordan? Yeah. Yeah, no. I mean, anyway, you wouldn't do it, but okay. So Baker, Jarrett, and Otten. So my guess is that it would just. I'm pretty confident in saying this, just scanning it, but already knowing. You know where I'm going with this.
Yeah, it's going to be Baker, Otten plus Aranda.
Nailed it. Yep, exactly. That's what it's going to be, and that's
Yep.
not crazy. I'm okay.
Not
with
crazy
it.
at all.
But I'm not playing Baker without Otten. I think that might actually be crazy.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you getting to the running backs?
No. I bet Bucky Irving to score. I just like to throw that out there of what I'm doing on the
Oh,
Tails
really?
marketplace. Yeah. Yeah. I got what I thought was a good enough number. And I think he's got some touchdown equity, but I don't think he's got volume equity.
Wow, Amari's out.
Yeah, I know.
So-
That changes quite a bit, actually.
My Shakir ownership and Kincaid ownership is not going anywhere. Well, that's not true. Maybe it goes up. But for what it's worth, I don't think it will, because our smart guys behind the scenes on the data team already had Amari out.
They know.
So good job, fellas. Nice work. I always appreciate when we nail that type of stuff, so you don't have to scramble. You know what I mean? Super helpful. Anyway, anything
Mike
else?
Collins, that helps for sure.
Oh yeah, right. I didn't even think about that. And Mac actually gets some targets in the end zone.
Definitely. All the time when I'm sweating out my TDs, I'm like, I got it. And then I'm just like, the hell is that? And it's Mac Collins. It's just like, well, that didn't help at all.
I have 5% Hollins right now. Yeah, not
He's gonna
crazy.
be, if you were worried about Adai Mitchell and you were like, I don't want to overexpose, that's a perfect guy in that same range.
Big time. Yep. New England, Chicago. There's one spot I really like here. Maybe this is the game where Keenan Allen looks like his former self, because he hasn't lately. He's had a couple ugly drops. I'm sure you've seen him. I'm sure you guys have seen him. DJ Moore legit just like walked off the field during a play last week, right? Weird
Bears are
stuff.
teetering. If the Bears lose this game, that coach, I think, is gone.
You think so?
Yeah, I don't think they're going to lose, but if they do, yeah, then I think it's over.
So what I'm getting at here is that I know you still see some Roshan Johnson attempts inside the 5. Khalil Herbert's gone. The price point on Swift is just too good. Like they're what were they touchdown favorites still, right?
Yeah, it's right under that, but yes.
Okay, so 6.5 point favorites. They're at home, bad weather game, wind. They've struggled. Get back to the basics here. You have Drake May facing a very good secondary. They can't run block, so I don't think they can establish enough on the ground. I just don't see why DeAndre Swift wouldn't get a boatload of opportunities. So I really like him this week.
Talked about him on the First Look show on Tuesday. Love the way he plays. Love how he fits into this offense. I love the game script. I like the price. Core play, one of my favorites on the slate.
Yeah, man. We're on the same page. But I'm having trouble getting to the rest of Chicago. Plus, how do you differentiate? Maybe you can help me with this, because when I don't know something, I'll be the first person to tell you. I really don't know how to differentiate between Odunze, DJ Moore, and Keenan Allen. I just can't do it.
I'm not sure there is a way to do it, in the sense that there's no, I don't mean this in a bad way, there's just no really rhyme or reason. You just kind of have to deal with that volatility. And Caleb, I'm not the biggest fan. He's shown promise. He's also got a pretty bad floor. I'm more apt to say, give me Swift, give me Hunter Henry on the other side of this game, and let's call it a day.
Works for me. Works for me. Nothing from New England.
Hunter Henry.
Yeah, sorry. Outside of Henry, he's the only. Okay. Yeah. Ramondre's tough to get to. He's just been wildly inefficient. Tennessee at the Chargers. Tajay Spears is back, Ben.
Good.
Yeah. I just mean, I don't know how you get to Pollard at his elevated price point now.
That's what I mean. That's why I'm happy, because it makes, I'm someone dumb enough who could convince myself to do that. And I'm just glad it makes it even tougher, because there's so many other running backs. I'm a big Tony Pollard fan. Sub 40 total, bad game script, Levis, just none of this. Get this out of here.
How big does the Levis thing factor in for you?
It doesn't factor in at all, as much as it solidifies that I'm not trying to be cute with Tennessee. Like, I know this guy, Westbrook-Akina, scores every week, but I don't care. Like,
it actually does factor in for me, though.
In what sense?
In the sense that Calvin Ridley and Mason Rudolph finally started to get some chemistry.
And, so in a bad way, you're saying?
Oh, in a very bad way. Okay. Yeah. I mean, Will Levis, the last time we saw Will Levis was him throwing nine times to Calvin Ridley, and Calvin Ridley had 0 receptions on the day. Yeah, this is absolutely one of those spots where I think Will Levis's return is pretty impactful on a guy in Calvin Ridley, who, we said it before, that Mason Rudolph isn't good, but he actually he could at least find ways to get Ridley the ball. Ridley, the last 2 weeks, dude, he has 23 targets, and he had 143 against Detroit, 73 against New England. Those were decent games. And now he's pretty much, there's no way I can do it.
Listen, the only differential, I thought you were talking about it in a positive way. Yes.
No,
it renders Tennessee useless.
Yeah, right. Plus, this Chargers defense has been phenomenal. Even if you wanted to make the argument that they're facing not great offenses, which you wouldn't be wrong, they're still facing NFL teams. Do you know how many points per game they're allowing on the season this year?
No, but I think they're best in the league, are they not?
Take a guess.
12.
Man, you're smart. That's why I love doing shows with Ben Rossi. 12.6 points per game.
You know what that's called? Luck. That's why I know I'm gonna have a bad week. It's like, I used all my run good on that stupid guess instead of just having good luck in these lineups
that no one will ever remember or care about.
That is the number one thing that pisses me off. I get a knock on the door. It's like, we chose from 6,000 people, you get a free shirt. You were the one. And I'm like, or I could have won that 6,000 person GPP.
Yep.
Great. Awesome.
Yep. That is so true. Right? Like, you just, like, you against all odds, something happens for you. But it's something you just rather never ever happen.
Yeah. Exactly. It's like, I get 50% off mozzarella sticks at Olive Garden. That's great. Fantastic. Real good.
That's good stuff. All right.
My blood pressure. You're going to kill me. Yeah. Thank you. I'm sorry to derail the show. I know we're up against it. Matt Kajeski, the sharpest in the business. Player props. Let's ladder Jimmy Horn yesterday. He slipped on a tortilla after they threw him down from the stands and sprained his ankle. That's what I'm talking about.
Wait, is this real?
I swear to everything I just said is real. They throw tortillas at Texas Tech. One got on the field. He slipped. He got hurt.
And you laddered him?
Oh, it was in a great spot. Matt has been on it all year with him. You see what we're talking about here?
What did he finish with?
0. Zero everything. That's what he finished with.
Oh my God. All right, let's keep going. 500 likes. Thanks to you guys for supporting the
Please.
show. Stick around too, Matt. You want to hear it. Him and Eric coming up next. Chargers are interesting. Is Gus Edwards playing?
Chargers are interesting, and certainly these are the. So let me ask you this. Let me pass it right back. How big of a deal do you think it is if he does play?
Not huge for me because I don't want to pay the premium on Dobbins.
Okay.
Could Dobbins just end up winning against a team that does they have a pass funnel defense for Tennessee? L'Jarius Sneed's out, but even if he was in, he's been terrible this year regardless. Doesn't make a difference to me. If anything, I'm going to the cheap Herbert stacks, man. I'm getting Justin Herbert at $5,200. It's too cheap. My theory on this, I might have told you on Tuesday or it was Greg on Wednesday, but allow me to quickly repeat it. He's thrown for 275 plus yards in 3 straight games. This guy was mummified coming into the season. He missed most of training camp, didn't get to gel with guys like McConkey. You had a guy in Quentin Johnston who played last year, but he was playing fourth fiddle in the offense behind Allen, Williams, and Palmer. And now you've got him, a healthy Herbert, finally gaining chemistry, some cohesion with this offense. And 2, you've got, Greg Roman, first-year coordinator with the Chargers, first-year head coach, and Jim Harbaugh, first year with the Chargers. Like, it took them a little while on offense. Now we're seeing a team that just has a lot of talent, young talent in McConkey. We know Herbert's good. He's $5,200. He's $800 more than Mac Jones today, in a pass funnel spot.
Yeah, listen, I hear you. And this is a team, it's been a little tough because I was a little unsure how philosophically it would change, but you have mentioned this guy's price. He's playing really efficient, which isn't great for DFS, but it's still there. And man, I get it. And his pass catchers are very price enticing. I don't know the right word, but you've got Ladd and you've got Johnston. So I'm fine with it, but I'm also fine with just saying, you know what? I have other quarterbacks and I'm just going to slide in a Chargers wide receiver as a one-off and hopefully he connects on a couple of these home run balls.
People talking about my dog in the back.
Yeah.
She's getting the gray face. It's a cute one. Hey, Chuck, look. There she is. Yeah, she's chilling. She sits like a human. So she's just propped up on the back of the couch. There she is. Just chilling. Yeah, she hears something. She hears one of my daughters crying upstairs and she hates it. So she hides down here with me. I don't blame her. That's what I would do. If I could hide, Ben, I'd get the fuck out of there every time. But she's chilling. Yeah, she's a good girl. But what's going to happen is she's going to hear something. She's going to bark and I'm going to hate her in a couple minutes. Dogs only get dumber as they get older. That's the cool thing about kids is you hope they get smarter.
Hope.
Yeah. She's devolving. Anyway, let's keep going. I told you where I'm at with the Chargers. Are there priorities here for you? That's the biggest thing.
Honestly, no. Not priorities. It's just a couple of guys in that mid-range wide receiver bucket. I don't have interest in the backfield. You've got Ladd coming in around 15%. I think that's reasonable. You've got Quentin Johnston sub 10. I think that's reasonable. And you've got, Justin Herbert as a pretty popular pay down quarterback option. I'm not opposed to it, but really to me, it's confined there. The Disley experiment was nice while we had it. And now I think that's over.
Yeah. That's the part that sucks is if Hayden Hurst was out, the McConkey Disley double stack would look so good.
It would, but yep.
That's do you go McConkey, Quentin Johnson, or can you skinny stack it?
Man, I think you can skinny stack it. I'll see how it grades out. One of my favorite thing about, the tools, it shows you like the +1, +2, +3 leverage scores and things of that nature and ROIs. I'm fine. I can't see myself going onslaught though. I just don't know. I don't have any other targets.
Yeah. I don't know if this is a disingenuous question or not, but Brian asked, do you guys even know what the Titans defense does to offenses you're not even talking about? He said tit. So they hit it, but he meant it. Look, I'll be honest with you. There's a couple, the most important thing to me is implied totals from a Vegas standpoint. And they have a 24-point implied total and they're very cheap. That's the one thing that matters most to me is what are the odds set at? And it's a 24-point total.
They're not a high volume team anyway, so like they get there on efficiency.
But Brian, if you'd like to, instead of burying the lead, if you'd like to tell me what you're referring to, and I'm being totally genuine here, let me know what it is. But I know that this Titans secondary has not faced many great passing opponents. They have real weaknesses. Anyway, two more, Ben. Philly and Dallas. Talk to me. They're 7-point favorites. Dak Prescott with that partial hammy tear is done on the IR. What are we doing here on both sides?
Yeah, so you've got, the Eagles, it's your account, but I guess all these guys is everybody good to go?
Everyone's good. Goddard's back. AJ Brown's good. And AJ Brown had full practices. There's no reason they'd play him if he wasn't 100%. I'm very confident in that. Doesn't mean he'll have a great game, but they would not play him otherwise.
So again, it's one of these fascinating situations of bonus, good things, all the weapons are back, bad things. That's a lot of mouths to feed. And a lot of these guys were priced up because others were not there at one point. And so that makes it difficult. I think Saquon is the obvious play from them. He's a pivot off Kamara. He's going to be a fraction of the ownership. He's Saquon. Yes, you have to worry about Hurts if you get to the 1 yard line, but if you don't, he's shown time and time again he can do it. I'm interested in taking a shot at A.J. Brown as a flyer. I know Justin Jefferson is the more prudent play, but it's still A.J. Brown, and there is a chance that all the touchdowns fall to him at what's going to be really low ownership. So the Eagles, it's a good team to target. The problem I have, it's too expensive for an onslaught stack, in my opinion.
I've tried it. Really, really difficult. I've tried it. It's not easy. Some one-off spots. This is why I've gotten to less Barkley lately. This is why Barkley wasn't in the winning lineup in a lot of contests last week, or even top 3. He was in some, obviously, but he wasn't actually needed, right? Like you could have done it other ways. Devonta Smith's unplayable on DraftKings and on FanDuel because both sites preemptively priced him up for A.J. Brown potentially being out. Mm-hmm. So he's unplayable. I still think Grant Calcaterra gets worked in. I'm not playing Dallas Goedert. So it comes down to like Hurts skinny stack with Brown. It really does. You're like, actually, you have such a narrow path here. Hurts skinny stack with A.J. Brown or Saquon Barkley. That's what it is.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. But we're on the same page, right? Like that's what it comes down to.
Yes.
Yeah. It's nuts. Can't get to Goddard, really. Can't get to Devonta. Can't mega stack, double stack this. I don't want to, honestly. What about Dallas with Cooper Rush? Did you go to Lamb?
I think you still can go to Lamb just because it's CeeDee Lamb, and I would assume that his ownership took a massive hit because of all this. And I'm still a guy, he's going to be force-fed targets. They may not be as efficient. You could go to him. Are you going to Dowdle?
Yeah, I'm not doing that.
I don't think I am either. Caught my eye just because it could be the situation where he just takes on a lot of the pass catching duties and helps alleviate some pressure. But all in all with Dallas, I'll stick to what I know is that CD will be busy. He's not the best play up there, but for his ownership, similar to AJ Brown, could be a really interesting tournament pivot off Jefferson, who's clearly the best when you look at everything. Definitely.
And Goody with the super chat. Thanks, Goody. With Barkley's workload, how do you not pivot off Kamara for 200 more at much lower ownership? Yeah, it's just the reception value is so valuable for Kamara. But no, look, I've said it a lot of weeks. I've been on and I've been right sometimes, wrong sometimes, that Barkley getting way lower ownership than these guys, to me, is always a viable pivot. Always. It's just a touchdown equity that sucks with Jalen Hurts being in there. If they get down to the 1 or 2, it's a Jalen Hurts touchdown.
That's always the danger that you run.
Yeah. And then one more super chat before we close this one out, Ben. Plan B Smoothies. Oh, member for 34 months. Damn, thanks, man. He's been with us a while. 2 Barkley touchdowns. Happy birthday, Laffy. Not my birthday, as always. 2 touchdowns for Barkley. It's possible. It's just he has to defeat the final boss, which is Jalen Hurts. If they get down to, he needs to run one from further out. Jets and Cardinals. All right. Jets 1.5-point favorites. They were 1-point dogs earlier in the week. So this one swung the opposite direction through the 0. 46-point total. Who do you like?
So it's actually a pretty decent game to close us out. The thing about the Jets, for a team that's got issues still, they got 3 guys. I don't know how many other teams can say this. They have 3 skill position players north of 7K or higher on DraftKings, which is pretty wild for a team like this. So it just shows you've got, mouths to feed, and you need a lot of volume for any of them. I think for me, Garrett Wilson, it's not just the insane catches, but it's going to continue to be actively involved, as will all these guys. But I think it's a team that you kind of evaluate that simply. You have 3 really big time players there. They're all probably slightly overpriced because they cannibalize each other, but I think you could make a case for any of them.
Jamal Williams is out again as well. So, just another argument for Alvin Kamara being out there a lot. That's with Kendre Miller also on the IR. 77% of snaps last week is crazy. Just throwing it out there. Look, Wilson and Devontae Adams are going to have like a 65% combined target share. That's the argument in favor. The argument against them is they're both north of 7K.
And Breece Hall is there.
Yep. I'm having a tough time getting to these guys today. I really am. And I can tell you my exposures if you guys are curious. Again, I will change these throughout, coming shortly, but they'll be pretty similar. And it's more of this team than I would have initially expected. So it worries me a little bit, but I do have 20% Breece, 20% Adams, 18% Wilson, and 10% Rodgers. So it's basically just banking on the fact that this is going to be possibly going forward the most concentrated offense in the league.
I think that's very, very fair to say. Like I said, you've got 3 guys that are all going to be there. It's just sometimes you divvy up that pie, and even though all of them get a piece, none of the pieces are good enough when you're talking about 7K price tags. That's the worry for me.
Yeah, I hear you. Close us out, Arizona. For me, it's James Conner, and that's it.
Correct. I really respect the Jets' pass defense. I'm not sure exactly what to do with Marvin Harrison week in and week out in mid-6s. James Conner's a good player. He's 6,500. He's in that Aaron Jones discussion. He's not my favorite. He's behind Jones, but he's in that discussion.
And for the FanDuel people out there, before we go, by the way, if you ever wanted to get a free month of Stokastic Sims, just rock the avatar, stokastic.com/HOF. Use it wherever it is you play. DraftKings, FanDuel, doesn't matter. You rock that, download it, and then upload it to whatever site you play on. Finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more. Even if it's a 10-cent entry, it does not matter how much the entry is or how much you win. Get a free month of Stokastic Plus or Stokastic Sims single sport. Look at the value of that, right? It's the $200 value max package. Win twice in a calendar year, and you get another month plus another week. Win 3 times. Ben, all access Sims Max, every sport, $550 value. And then any $20,000 plus win, doesn't matter if it's only 100 entries, you get inducted into the Stokastic Ring of Honor. You get this beautiful ring with your name on it, Stokastic Hall of Fame, engraved display case with the spinning ring. Who doesn't want that? Rock the avatar. What's that?
I said, I want that.
Me too. Rock the avatar. Get involved. Set yourself up so when you have a nice win, you just get more on top of it, right? Like, just be smart. Stokastic.com/HOF. For those people, Ben, wondering about FanDuel, playing out on FanDuel, they include, for some reason, the Sunday night game. We don't know if Nico's going to play. I tend to think he will. And if he does, I actually like him without Stephon Diggs.
I worry about that whole situation for Houston.
Why?
Just with, again, it's a hamstring. Like, that's, and it doesn't seem clear that he's going to play. I just worry about that on a main slate. You're talking Showdown, it's different, but to me, that's an unnecessary risk. Ooh, Keenan Allen ladder up to 100. I could see that. That's not the craziest. There'll be yards to go around.
Yeah, I'd almost prefer a receptions ladder on a guy like Allen, but I could get behind it. I like Nico. Joe Mixon in this spot scares me. His rushing prop is still very high, but it's a tough matchup, and you're not going to get a discount on Joe Mixon. He's been awesome, and the volume's insane, and he's involved in the passing game. But where would you prioritize him on a main slate with all of these other backs? That's my problem.
That's my problem with Houston in general.
Okay, so Nico, Tank Dell included, all of these guys?
Yeah, again, some of them can factor in. It should be a good game, but you're not talking about just the showdown slate tonight. You're talking about them on a full slate with all the players we just talked about. Unnecessary risk for me.
What about Detroit?
I mean, Detroit's awesome, but they're the opposite of the Jets. Like I said, they're trying to get Penei Sewell touchdowns. I don't really understand why, but like great team, but they just have a laundry list of weapons. And I would have Jefferson and even like CeeDee Lamb, I think, ahead of like the St. Browns of the world at this point. And Laporta, it's been tough, even with some of the guys in and out of the lineup. And then you've got Gibbs and Montgomery. It's difficult offense to decipher. I hate to be a bearer of bad news.
The only other question I have for this game, and then we're going to get it out of here, turn it over to Greg, to Eric and Matt, is if Nico is out, does a $7,200 Tank Dell appeal to you in this spot?
That would, just because then
there's no one else.
There's literally no one else.
Yep. And I think you'd have to at least make an argument that a $5,400 Dalton Schultz is fine.
I mean, again, you're out of options at that point for Houston. It's still a competent team. I know Stroud has struggled, but still.
Yeah, 9K Mixon's tough, man. Ooh. 9K St. Brown on a great, it's only an 11-game slate, but man, there's so many good high-priced mid-range options as well. Yep. Hey, follow Ben at JazzRaz Bets, me at Laffy_D on the Twitters. Appreciate you hanging out as always. I figured you could throw the BOGO at the people, have some friends come and join us over there in Discord and on Tails before we go.
Why not? Yeah, of course. Very, very quickly, just if you're betting games, if you're wondering what we're betting, come over to Tails and join the marketplace. And one of my favorite things that we're offering, I'm doing a ton of sports. Laffy's doing a ton of sports. We decided to combine. So if you go over there, sign up. It doesn't matter who you sign up. Pick one of us. Use that code BOGO. And then just right in the Discord, just mention that you did it. We'll get you the other one for that first week or month, whatever you did. It's that simple. Come in and say hi. Start getting some picks and having some fun.
Hell yeah, man. I got some ladders round robins today. I know you do.
Last thing. I hit the anytime touchdown parlay last week.
I was happy for
one in a billion. I needed it too. And I'm running it back this week, of course. We got to have some fun with that.
Oh, yeah. So if you love this stuff and you want to get into betting as well, come join us. BOGO. Link right there in the description. Click on the Tails and then just sign up at Ben or mine. When you sign out, BOGO is the promo. You'll get mine for free or you'll get Ben's for free the first month. Say hi in Discord. Can you believe Bug Boy joined us? He's always talking shit, and there he was saying hello.
My man. Now see, and that's how it starts. And now he's dropping ladder plays right in chat. I love it.
Let's go. We love it, man. We'll see you guys back here soon. Appreciate you. As always, all the super chats and everything else. And to close it out, John Prince just now, Ben. I got my free month with second place finish in last night. Gonna get another one today. Might even get the ring. Thanks, guys, for teaching me how to play DFS. Woo. Hell yeah, man. We'll see you soon. Coming up next, Matt Kajeski, Eric Lindquist, live before lock. Peace.
What's that champion's hat? I'm ready. What champion's hat is that? Bulls hat. Okay, it's beautiful. What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Week 10 Sunday NFL Live Before Lock, presented by Stokastic here at Stokastic. I'm Eric Lindquist. You can follow me at Eric Lindquist over on X. I'm joined, of course, like I am every single Sunday, and I've been blessed to just about every single NFL Sunday for the last 4 years. His name is Matt_Gajewski. Actually, there's no underscore in the middle, but that would be a great middle name. Matt, how you doing, my dude?
I'm doing good. Instead of underscore, you get Joseph. But yeah, excited for another week of football. How are you, man?
Doing great. I'm ready to rock for this slate. I kind of hate it, but I kind of hate to love it a little bit too. We've got some real dustiness that we've got to try to force into our lineups, I think, for tournaments today. It's going to be some random sub 4.5K wide receiver from some team, hoping Tampa Bay or Buffalo for what it's worth. Looking at some dusty guys down here to try to force into our lineups for doubles, for triples, to try to get up to the Justin Jeffersons of the world or all of the ceiling running backs that exist here on today's slate. But smash that like button, subscribe button, notification bell. Let's cover the actives and actives like we always do before we start breaking things down. Quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, defense, and then we get the heck up out of here. Don't think there's a ton to report outside of Amari Cooper going to be out here for today. That is going to create some real weirdness. We've got two 3,300 wide receivers in Curtis Samuel, Mac Hollins. I'm sure we can talk about them a little bit more. Jamal Williams will be inactive yet again. Alvin Kamara, as if people didn't like him enough here this week. Well, this looks like a pretty good week to potentially go towards him. And we get Jalen McMillan. He was kind of a surprise to me. He's somebody that I think had been out for a little bit in our projections. And then, well, Jalen McMillan is playing football today. Maybe a little less steam here on the Sterling Shepard, Trey Palmers of the world. Cade Otton, he's not going to go anywhere. He ain't going nowhere because he's a bad boy for life. Matt, anything that you noticed here with the inactives you wanted to touch on?
Not really. It seems like most of that was already projected for us. The Amari Cooper stuff, and we were on top of the Jalen McMillan stuff this morning. So I think it's pretty clean. There's not too many changes to be making from what you were already doing this morning.
Yeah, from this morning to this morning. It's always lovely. It's lovely if you guys would smash the like button too as we get started here. It's going to be a fun one. It's kind of a sprint slate. Again, 10 games, fewer than we've had here in the last couple of weeks. But I'm excited now about this slate because I think everybody's having to go into the doldrums and try to force some stuff into tournaments that feels uncomfortable and isn't always going to look great in projections. And I feel like those are the weeks in NFL that I tend to do my best because I kind of just say, all right, I'm going to prioritize correlation and some other things above all else and try to get to some uncomfortable type plays that other people might not be. It kind of gets consolidated around certain chalk pieces down at the bottom end. And there's no Cedric Tillman like we've seen in the last couple of weeks where we could see a massive increased target share and a completely different opportunity for him. There's nothing that secure, I think, sub 5K. So I'm excited. You ready to start breaking this thing down, my friend?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, we begin here at the quarterback position like we always do. Got a couple of interesting ceilings, but, you know, for last week where I was very about flipping the build, getting to like some of the expensive quarterbacks, which Lamar Jackson, Zay Flowers, hello, that was fun. We're not, well, I'm not going to be getting to this top end here above 6,700 very often. There's only three guys, Hurts, Allen, Daniels. My favorite of them is Allen. I think I'm going to get to a little bit of Allen considering what I've done here with Curtis Samuel and Matt Collins over the last 5-10 minutes before we got on this show. But how do you feel about these top three? Because I doubt I'm going to get overweight to a single one.
It's going to be the same for me. I'm not even sure I'm going to play one of them in a 150 set. Right now I have a little bit of Daniels, but that's it. Allen, you could maybe make an argument for based on price of stacks, but
Correct.
Still, this is a run-heavy team. But you could always throw him in with Shakir or Kincaid. Now both of them project pretty well now that Amari is out. Hurts, I think, is the hardest one to play, which is sad because normally he would be the one that I'm most interested in. It's just a pricing thing on this slate. We don't have any value that we feel comfortable with. So if you play Hurts, like, what do? Do you play him naked? Do you sink a ton of your salary cap into him and AJ Brown? He's just really hard to get to against Dallas, which is tough for me. But Daniels, I think, is the most interesting just with the rushing equity he provides. None of those games are super interesting on paper. We're not talking anything with like elite totals. So this is a range I'm pretty comfortable just getting away from in order to spend up at other positions.
Kind of with you. Again, it's tight pricing. Even I'm going to the doldrums, and I do think just because of what I've done here with those cheap wide receivers, as you said, the price of the stack, Khalil Shakir, Dalton Kincaid look much, much, much better from a projection standpoint. Getting Amari Cooper out of there, already had Keon Coleman out of there, so it's going to be pretty consolidated. I am curious. I think Dawson Knox probably one of the better bets on the board right now at 2.5 receptions, 1.5 receptions, depending on where you're looking at. Heavily juiced there in that direction, but like, there's a chance they just go to more 12 and they just decide to, kind of bunker it in. Potentially, James Cook, the running game should be able to have some success against Indy. I think that's one of the contrarian running backs I'm pretty high on today. We'll see where I end up finishing with some of my exposures. Not a crazy amount that I'm getting in the Sims right now, but might be an ROI boost candidate considering, I think that there's a lot of ways that you can go at running back today. We've got some cheapie, well, one cheapie to talk about sub 6K, and then a lot of really good plays, I think, that are all right in that mid 6 range, 7K range, and then 8K range going to be one that I think a lot of people want to get to as well. But I don't think we're going to be going as expensive at QB. So what are we going to get to here as we move down the board? Because this next range, I think, is awesome and very tournament-rich environment. Cousins, Mahomes, I think this is like the most interest I've had in Mahomes in a while. I know Denver's defense is really, really good, but now we potentially have a nice stack candidate in the mid 5s with DeAndre Hopkins. Again, not a guy I'm getting to a ton right now, but I'm definitely trying to make a case to ROI boost that one as well. Brock Purdy, Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray against the Jets, not as appealing, but we know he can do with his legs from time to time. And then Sam Darnold at 6,200, who I'm surprised isn't like the mega chalk, but I suppose that's what's happening because of the San Francisco side. They've got Christian McCaffrey back. That's like the last piece of the Infinity Stone, although Brandon Ayuk is out for the year. What are you getting to the most in the 6K range here? Because this is a very, very interesting one, Matt.
Yeah, Brock Purdy stands out with getting some weapons back, and McCaffrey. Losing Ayuk sucks, but this team is a massive team total. The overall total in the game is 50 points. Tampa Bay is definitely a defense you could take advantage of. So he stands out just from a game environment perspective. I think he's completely fine. And you're right. I'm spreading my exposures across players outside of Purdy. Second most owned is Sam Darnold against that lifeless Jacksonville defense. The only real problem I have with that game now is Mac Jones. Can Jacksonville even keep this remotely competitive against that Minnesota defense? I'm not sure, but I think there's enough potential here to throw some darts on Darnold to Jefferson. He's cheap enough to get to. Baker on the other side of the San Francisco game, I think, is fine. You're just getting really cheap stacking options. And then going down to Mahomes, I'm with you. I'm a little worried Mahomes is going to get steamed up and carry a decent amount of ownership today. And I think everyone's going to play him the same way, either Kelsey or Hopkins. There's not really anywhere else to go. So that's the only concern I have with Mahomes. And honestly, I thought that team total would be a little better for them coming into the week, but the overall total is so low at 42.5 against Denver that it still has me going to those other quarterbacks we mentioned, like the Purdy's and stuff ahead of him.
Oh, but Justin Watson played 58 snaps last week. We could play the wind sprinter Justin Watson today if we wanted to.
He is a good game every year. He had one last year, and then everyone played him the following week, and I think he bageled.
He will do that. There's nowhere else to go, really. I mean, McCall, Hardman, what are we even doing here? I mean, for me, there's actually a couple of Justin Watson lineups I'm looking at, just kind of from the Sims, just filtering out to get some Mahomes, potentially favorite a couple of those lineups. Once again, many ways to skin a cat, even though I absolutely hate that analogy, because why would I want to skin a cat? That's very creepy and not something you should do in the year of our Lord 2024. We're advanced past that, but we will continue on our merry way. Yes, I saw that here at the top of the board. Sub 6K, because I'm with you. I think that, just getting to a little bit of Purdy. I don't have a single quarterback over 15% today. Do you?
No, I don't. It's pretty spread.
Yeah, it's very spread for me. I mean, I'm not getting overweight to any of the guys, even pulling somewhat double-digit ownership. Do have a couple of interesting guys down here, sub 6K. I think the guy who probably gets steamed up the most ends up being Aaron Rodgers. We have Justin Herbert, of course, who is very popular already. So it's hard to get steamed up from a place where you're already steamed. Put that one in the notebook. But I want to ask about Russell Wilson, because this is a Washington defense that will not be utilizing Marcus Lattimore's services here yet today. They played the Jets, they played the Giants, and the Giants, despite what we're seeing against Carolina here today, which is not pretty, I have more respect for the Giants defense, surely, than their offense here at this point in time, but the Jets defense as well. Russell Wilson has been, quote, cooking, and Russell Wilson gets probably the best matchup of the three here in this spot. Washington's defense has performed much, much better, but they've had a pretty decent schedule here at times too. I mean, the Bears have been completely inadequate. They just sneak out of that one. They got to face the Giants. They got to face Carolina. That's going to make your defense look a lot better the last 3 weeks. And I think Russell Wilson, the one guy that I have a large overweight to stance here today, I think it's very clear-cut. I want to play Pickens with him. I don't think Pat Freiermuth, looking at some of his pass prop stuff, I did bet his over 2.5 receptions at plus money, but I mean, that's still kind of a tough stack candidate. They do get Mike Williams. Doubt he's on the field a lot here, but I think Calvin Austin is another one of those guys that you just kind of throw into that sub 4K bucket. You correlate him with it. And I don't hate playing Najee alongside Russell Wilson, hoping that you just get a lot of touchdowns from that football game and potentially run it back with some Austin Eckler in your life. I like Russell Wilson a lot for tournaments, and that's not something I expected to say this year. Do you, Matt?
I think he's okay. He's the worst projected player in this range for us, but I mean, everything's super close. It's not by a lot. You look at like price adjusted, I'm talking, not just like raw projection. Him versus like, I don't know, a Caleb Williams, or him versus, there's a couple guys down here that are interesting, like Darnold. It's not all that different. So if you wanted to get there for tournaments, I don't hate it. I have a bias against Russell Wilson, so I'm just going to play what it gives me. Right now, it's 3%. It's all him and Pickens. I have no issues with that, but I don't anticipate getting much higher than that on Wilson. This is still a run-based team that doesn't really like airing the ball out if they can avoid it. I'm not sure if that'll be the case today. Washington's definitely going to put up points really against any defense, but we'll see on Wilson. There's other guys I'd rather play if you're just getting like one lineup or something.
Yeah, we've got him right around 3%. I'm seeing that's kind of the most ownership coming into him across the industry right now, and I think that that's kind of the main talking point for it. If Russell Wilson was 5-6%, I think it'd be pretty easy for me in large field to hit eject, but I really Pickens is going to have some ceiling games here. And again, Calvin Austin, I still think is utilized enough with Mike Williams just getting acquired there. And also Mike Williams, he didn't look very good there with Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers kind of ran him out on a rail, it would appear, but I am quite invested in Russell Wilson doing good things today, which is not something that I want to say out loud too often in my life, because that's just not going to go well for you. But Steelers country, let's ride. You got any Flacco? You got any Aaron Rodgers? Because I'm surprised to see Aaron Rodgers sub 7% in our projections. I think he ends up a little bit higher considering the interest in Wilson and Adams, and two guys that are definitely projecting out well for us. Anything else sub 6K you really like?
Yeah, they have a great matchup too against Arizona, which Caleb Williams couldn't take advantage of. So maybe Arizona's turned the corner. I think that was more Chicago being Chicago than Arizona taking a step. But yeah, it's a good matchup for Rodgers. You know exactly where the ball is going. I think we're probably going to see something like 60% of the targets through their big two the rest of the year. Otherwise, down in this range, I like playing these players. I don't feel like they're all that different than the 6K range, and you can certainly use the extra 1,000 or so you save to go up and get a stud somewhere else. Herbert's down here certainly benefiting from the elevated pass rate of the Chargers lately. Weird change they made, but I'm kind of happy they've done it because Herbert's been awesome. Tennessee's defense doesn't scare me. And then you have players like Flacco. You mentioned him briefly. I think you could sprinkle him. He's been horrible since they gave him the full-time job, but what's the real difference between like Flacco and Russell Wilson? Like almost nothing, in my opinion. And
yeah, I'm at the field right now on Flacco. I think we got to be somewhat optimistic on Indy in this spot. First off, Michael Pittman out. He's been hurt. I think he's actually been a problem out on the field to some extent. Like, I love Michael Pittman. I'm very invested in best ball. I know that utilizing your best ball projections, that was a guy that just constantly, as I was drafting, was somebody that landed in my portfolio because he just kind of felt undervalued. And Joe Flacco definitely had ascended his ceiling a little bit there. Anthony Richardson, more report. He brought some games of Alec Pierce early on in that season with some deep shots. Otherwise, was an extremely inefficient quarterback. He's young. Hopefully he figures it out. But Joe Flacco, he had to go up against Minnesota there, which, again, the blitz rate just out of control. Same thing with Houston against Anthony Richardson there in that week 8. Josh Downs has still been looking pretty good, and now they get to take on Buffalo at the second lowest blitz rate in the entire NFL so far this season. So I feel at least optimistic. The Colts offensive line, I think, is good too, despite what you saw against Minnesota last time out. I think it's an above average offensive line in the NFL, and I think Flacco's at least an interesting guy. As I said, I'm basically making a case for being at the field, but considering how much Downs and Mitchell are going to be talking points of this show at the wide receiver position and how much people want to get to them individually, I think there's at least a case to be made for just finding those doubles and moving along with your life. I don't really think I can get to any Granson, Missouri over there. I don't think I can get to any Jonathan Taylor Thomas here in this spot either. Man, I used 2 references back to back, completely uncorrelated. That was a thing of beauty. But let's go to the doldrums for one guy and one guy only. Mac Jones. Who? Mac Jones. Also, Veterans Day tomorrow. That's good to know. I think Mac Jones is the worst play on the entire slate. Prove me wrong.
I don't really disagree. The main argument is just he's so cheap. Why not? So that's about it. He's not good. He's just really cheap, and he'll be out there every snap. That's kind of the end of the story with Mac Jones.
Can't wait to watch Flores just send blitz after blitz after blitz. And I do have a defensive take today. I will be playing the Vikings defense in my main lineup. I'm not sure if I'm going to end up playing Aaron Jones or not. I'm looking at it as we speak right now.
You're not playing Aaron Jones, our boy?
No. In my main lineup. Aaron Jones is our boy. We finally found our day, Makajeski. This is finally the day where nothing could possibly go wrong. And we get to jam chalk Aaron Jones, which, it's sad because I feel like if we could have gotten him on a couple of main slates recently, we would be pouring and raking in the dough. But alas, it has not worked out that way. Thursday night football and then Sunday night football. And it's just been brutality because he just keeps smashing, getting all of the work. But now he's super mega chalk. And so for one, like my main lineup, I'm trying to get away, but I'm going to play the Vikings defense at 3,700. I know that seems like an overpay. They're leading the entire slate in fantasy points per game. They like to blitz and do crazy things. And it is sitting duck Mac Jones back there without a slot receiver in Christian Kirk, without somebody to potentially rip it off the top. You got dinged up Gabe Davis, Brian Thomas Jr. I feel pretty confident Mac Jones is going to be in 0 lineups when it's all said and done on this show.
Yeah, I'm debating playing some right now. I don't really like playing Mac Jones. Basically all the reasons you mentioned, and he's just not very good. And if Trevor Lawrence is having such a bad season in this offense, what's it going to look like with him? I guess the only real question I have left before we move on is, do you have Caleb Williams?
No.
Not playing Caleb Williams? I get it. There's so many problems with the Bears right now. I think they might fire their coach soon. I watched a lot of the game last week. Their O-line is horrendous. He holds on the ball too long. Keenan Allen still hasn't lost any of the weight he gained this offseason. He's been awful. But yeah, I mean, he still projects well for us. I still get a little bit of him in the Sims. The stacks aren't super expensive with like Odunze. I don't know. I'm debating Caleb Williams, so wanted to hear what you thought.
Yeah, going from Kellen Moore to Shane Waldron as your offensive coordinator is like going from Lofty hosting the deeper dive to me on Live Before Lock. Not great for anybody involved. Not great, but it is what it is. Did Daniel Jones seriously just poach a touchdown from Tyron Tracy?
I don't have it on.
I love football. It's really fun. Let's talk through our top 3 favorite tournament quarterbacks that we have in terms of ownership that I have going towards them. Number 1, well, relative to ownership. So these aren't even necessarily my 3 highest owned, but I love Brock Purdy. I love Russell Wilson. That's a weird thing to say out loud just now. And I think Josh Allen ends up being the expensive guy that I'm going to force into some stuff. But currently, it is not him. It is going to be Aaron Rodgers. If please hold this ownership, that would be great. Against Arizona. Who are your 3 favorites relative to ownership, Matt?
So you're talking like larger field tournaments?
Larger field tournaments for the people.
Larger field tournaments. I'm going to say Darnold, we have him at like 7-ish%. Mahomes, we have him at 6, which I like. I'm scared it's going to get higher, but at 6, I think it's completely fine there. My last one, I'll say Baker at 4.
I love that too. Baker going to be somebody I'm a little bit overweight to ever so slightly, but pretty consolidated. No real big stands here at the quarterback position. Oh, but they are going to show up at the running back position. The wide receiver position a little bit too, just scattered out with some doubles that feel uncomfortable. But you know what? We're trying to win large field tournaments here. We're trying to help you with your cash games. We're trying to do everything we possibly can. But these large field tournaments specifically, if you guys smash over there, top 5,000, I believe it is. Check out the new Hall of Fame that we have going here. We've got the rotating rings on the little spigots. It's a beautiful thing that Lofty has put together here over at Stokastic. But if you finish in the top 5,000 of in the top, what am I talking about? Top 3 of a tournament of 5,000 or more, you have an opportunity when you download the Stokastic avatar, stokastic.com/HOF, to get yourself a month of The Sims for free ski. It's an awesome opportunity because, again, The Sims are something that we definitely want you guys to be utilizing. We utilize throughout this show. I'm utilizing in every single sport, but you finish in the top 3 of any 5,000 plus entry contest and tweet that win to Stokastic HOF with the avatar in the picture, and you'll get that free month. So check it out. Plus a lot of really cool stuff for those real big wins. Tons of stuff. So check it all out at stokastic.hof. Alrighty, y'all. Continuing on our merry way to running back. And we have chalk. It is awfully dusty here at the top where we've got Saquon coming off of hurdling people, not all that popular. But we've got this guy in Alvin Kamara that we must talk about here at length. This is a terrible New Orleans offense. They get rid of Dennis Allen, who was he the worst coach in the NFL for sure, Matt Kudczewski? I think he was top 3 worst, period.
Probably. I mean, the whole organization's bad. They willingly looked themselves in the eye and thought they could win with Derek Carr.
That probably wasn't great.
Well, I mean, they have to play him the rest of the year.
Well, they do, and Alvin Kamara should be getting... maybe we're back to Captain Checkdown here today. Obviously, the wide receiver core is in shambles here. It's not just that Chris Olave is on IR. It's not just that Rashid Shaheed is on IR. Now you have Cedric Wilson out, and that actually matters here. I had to do the Bart Simpson thing on X and say, I will not play MVS today. I will not do it. This Mason Tipton fellow exists. Thank God he's 4,500 and don't have to land on a ton of him here either. But Alvin Kamara, I mean, look at his receiving props across the industry. Look at how many targets he's had now over the course of the last 5, 9, 11, 7, 8, 8. It is absurd what we are getting from Alvin Kamara in terms of a workload right now. And yet again, Jamal Williams out, Kendre Miller on IR, and I don't really know anything about Jordan Mims, but he exists and is a person in the world, but apparently not on the field all of 5 carries last time out. How do you feel about Alvin Kamara as mega chalk today?
Jordan Mims, pride of Fresno State. I feel pretty good that Mims is not going to be taking away anything from Alvin Kamara. All this is do you want to eat the chalk here or use this as your leverage piece? He projects well enough at this price where I'm still willing to eat a lot of chalk on Alvin Kamara, but there's nothing you can really point to him negatively other than this offense stinks. He's going to be in line for 25 to 30 touches a game with maybe even half of those coming through the air at this point. This offense is horrendous.
They're terrible, horrible, no good, very bad offense. That is for sure. But him, Taysom Hill, who got quite a workload here as well. I mean, if it's not going to be Mr. Tipton, if it's not going to be MVS, and people who have watched my stuff for 4 years, they know the relationship I have with this guy. I do not like him, Sam I am. I do not like him on the field with Ham. That didn't make any sense. But you know what I'm saying. I absolutely can't stand MVS. But Alvin Kamara, this is somebody that I think you can kind of... For me, I'm going to be at the field maybe a little bit over on him. But Christian McCaffrey is my favorite tournament play at the running back position. I don't think that you have Christian McCaffrey less than 100% when you've waited this long to bring it back. Now, they need to win football games. That's part of the deal. But, like, I can't imagine that there isn't a massive, massive ceiling on that projection relative to, like, the other players that we're looking at. Because we have Kamara, we have Bijan Robinson, we have Breece Hall projected for more fantasy points, which I think is totally fair. But the highest implied total on the slate, San Francisco. The best spot on the slate amongst those teams, I still would say, is San Francisco. And then you have Christian McCaffrey, where if that workload is near 100%, which we've seen how many times here with Shanahan, I'm not saying it's the most likely thing, but at 12, 13%, I am willing to roll the dice and get way, way overweight to McCaffrey before people see it. Now, we could also see 50% of the workload, and I am toast. But in tournaments, these are the kind of things that I am willing to do for a guy who has that same type of catch floor as what an Alvin Kamara is going to have. Maybe not as high considering the other pieces that are around Christian McCaffrey in San Francisco, but God, do I love McCaffrey here today for tournaments. Talk me off of it or don't. Just let me do what I'm going to do.
I agree with you for the most part. The only thing I really disagree with is if he plays 50% of his role, I don't think you're toast. We're projecting him far less than his normal role right now. And that's basically the consensus around the industry, the prop market. No one is projecting him close to like the 2023 Christian McCaffrey. So if you do see more work, which I think is a stretch, he's just an absolute lock button smash play. And maybe you just need this game to remain hyper competitive for that. But just know if you're looking at any of our tools, he still projects well, even though we're not projecting a full roll and we're not on an island there. No one is.
No, it's going to be an interesting thing to watch right from the get-go. I think we're all excited to see him back out on a field because he's one of the most dynamic running backs that we've seen in the NFL in quite some time. Just consistent as can be. Him and Kamara are both so electric, and it's so fun to watch. One is mega chalk. McCaffrey's not. I think that's really what it's kind of coming down to for me in terms of just trying to find certain pieces of leverage, which I think also exists as we move down into the lower 7Ks, where James Cook at 7K, I brought him up earlier, he's at 6%. And this is eerily similar to what we saw against Seattle, where, again, it is a terrible rushing defense on the other side of this one for Indy. And nobody wants to play James Cook, where you do have Davis starting to mix in a little bit more. Ty Johnson's been out on the field, but like, if you give James Cook a decent workload here, still going to be the pass catching back, still going to be a spot where on the road in Indy, you want to establish that run, you would think, but 150 yards per game is not nothing here. I think that's enough to go around, even if there's going to be some type of a committee there. I really like him at the current ownership for tournaments. I think Jonathan Taylor on the other side of that one, popular, so it makes sense. Breece Hall, we've seen him mega chalk here recently, not so much here in this spot, sub 20% at the moment. And Bijan Robinson is just fine as well, although I always have those Algier concerns if this game doesn't end up competitive, that they just give it to Algier and that ceiling becomes diminished. So probably going to have Bijan Robinson involved with some Saints in lineups, including Alvin Kamara, hoping that game stays somewhat intact. But how are you feeling about the 7K range? Who are you landing on the most, Matt?
7K range is pretty nice. I don't actually have a lot of these guys. Most of my lineups find myself going down to just below, which is very, very sweet range overall. The highest owned players I have here are Breece Hall and Bijan. There's like a sprinkling of Dobbins and Taylor in my lineups, and that's about it. I don't have any James Cook. I just can't get there. He's ceding way too much work at this point to the backup running backs. And it's not just, I mean, Ty Johnson's carrying the ball here and there, and it's not a lot, but it's enough to siphon off work from James Cook, where he projects just too poorly for me. Could he get there? I mean, anyone can get there if they play football. And he does have a decent snap share. It's just like the price is wrong on him. He should be probably below guys like James Conner and Price, and he's just not. So that's about it for the 7K range. This is not a range where I anticipate myself being highly exposed.
Yeah, Ray Davis, again, it's a little tilting. He's good. I've thought he'd look pretty good every single time out there. That's more of an I know ball take, but I don't really care about that stuff. I'm looking at the projection. I think for me, it's just simply James Cook, this matchup. If somebody's going to find a ceiling there, I'm not going to play a 5,500 Ray Davis. I'm not going to play Ty Johnson 4,500. There are too many good running back plays. You're going to need 25 plus from these guys, I would assume. Unless we could get like a sub 6K guy to go off who's my highest on running back. Ooh, that would be fun. But we will get down here to Aaron Jones, our boy. He's all grown up. He's finally out from the reins that binded him with Mike McCarthy, with LaFleur. I mean, I want to do the dodgeball now. What is it? I can't even remember the quote off the top of my head, but I just know his name's... What is it, Jordan Klein? You're out, LaFleur. Nobody makes me bleed my own blood. F you, Chuck Norris. All of those good ones. But we've got Aaron Jones, Kareem Hunt, James Conner, DeAndre Swift. Lots of backs to get to. And of course, why wouldn't I be getting to more Ramondre Stevenson here for New England? Chicago's defense has not been very good against the run here of late. And I think that there are ways that he ends up being the back that you need in this range. What a time to be alive, Ramondre Stevenson. But Drake May, he's infused some type of hope for New England's offense to some extent. And you've got the mega chalk Chicago defense that could be like 30, 40, 50% owned in small field tournaments. So for my one big lineup to rule them all, one lineup to find them, I think Stevenson ends up being in it too, which is just disturbing to say out loud. Who do you like the most from the mid 6K
What are you playing
range?
that lineup in? You got like three 4% guys or lower.
That's what I was saying. I don't need to get this cute, but it's more just like all of these massive leverage pieces for small
That you
field.
don't need. You have 3 of them.
I know, but I'm thinking large field right now. I'm kind of overweight to all of those spots, and I'm kind of like, I'll just take some massive leverage stands in like 2 specific spots. One, I really like the McCaffrey over Kamara type play, where I think that's something that makes sense to me in like a small field setting where you could really see Kamara steamed up. I think people like to click on McCaffrey as well. That kind of always worries me to some extent. But New England's going to be a popular defense as well. But like, kind of like getting to the Stevenson piece where if they both kind of have the performances you're looking for, it probably also crushes the Bears and you're bypassing. Not that defense has that much separation and you need to be that worried about it. That's definitely something the Sims tool has over time taught all of us. Not only do you not need bringbacks, not only do you not need these guys on the bottom end, but you can definitely find ways to make your stance. But when you're hand building out a lineup or two and you're trying to find that massive leverage, I think Stevenson plus Patriots defense, something I'm kind of a fan of to some extent. But anywho, back to the 6K range. Let's talk about something we definitely agree on. Aaron Jones, best running back play on the slate.
Probably. I think price adjusted. Yeah. It's between him and Kamara, in my opinion. And they're different prices. It is what it is. But man, Kamara's floor is just so high. If you want to talk differences between the two, I think ceiling could be one of them. Aaron Jones, if he stays in the game the whole time, in this matchup against Jacksonville's lifeless defense, this is just an elite price-adjusted play in this matchup. The only thing I ever worry about with Aaron Jones is him staying on the field because it's cost me a lot of money. I think you too in the past. But he's kind of winning us our money back this year.
He's been trying. He's been working hard for the dollar. But you know what sucks? The last 2 weeks have been showdowns. And you're not getting any kind of return on a guy playing nearly 100% of the snaps. He sent Ty Chandler to the shadow realm. Hell, you had Kevin O'Connell go out and get Cam Akers because he doesn't like Ty Chandler at this point. I think Ty Chandler season, it's Jover for sure. But Aaron Jones, 6,700 for him, playing nearly 100% of the snaps. Massive total, or massive implied total for Minnesota, that is. Feel pretty good about this spot for him. And yeah, there's really not a lot else to say. What do you think about Connor and Swift? Because I do think this is like an interesting talking point. Bears defense going to be popular. Not, again, the correlation between defense, running back. It's not as pronounced as what I'm making it sound. It's simply like the combination of the two together in small field looks good to me. But DeAndre Swift with Bears defense, I would imagine is something people might do in some hand builds in small field. And James Conner 6,500 has been a fun click. Don't know if I love it against the Jets, but here we are. How are we looking at those two specifically? Because I think that's kind of a talking point for a lot of people's lineups.
Yeah, this is an excellent range and where I have most of my exposure. You mentioned like 3 guys that I want to be overexposed to. We already talked about Jones. DeAndre Swift against New England's defense. He's actually been playing better, and they're nearly touchdown favorites here. It's about the best possible situation you could draw up for Swift. Then you go down to James Conner. I'm not super worried about the matchup. His role is just that good, and he's 6,500. I think he's an excellent play. You could get to Kareem Hunt down here at 66. He doesn't project quite as well as those guys. I don't have quite as much of him. And it's largely just because Jones, Swift, and Connor are such good plays. But yeah, this is where I'm going to be spending most of my time.
Yeah, I'm going to spend a lot of time here. I'm going to take it out for a nice steak dinner, and I'm going to make sure that I call it again because I like the goods. I like the goods here. I also like Austin Eckler a lot at 5,800. That should shock absolutely nobody. He got dinged up in the first half, and it's almost like people didn't even recognize that he got a little bit of a stinger there while they were moving the ball, and he was smashing already. He put up 17.3. Didn't need him in tournaments last week, and I wasn't as high against the Giants, just basically not sure with Chris Rodriguez there. Sounds as though he's going to be back out there again, even though this would be his 4th time getting called up from the practice squad. So I guess he's just on the active roster now. Not exactly sure how that works. Just had it explained to me by people who are sharper than me. Austin Eckler, 5,800 looks really good, though, still, considering we should see some type of passing volume. Should get opportunities at the goal line if they get there. Pittsburgh on the other side. Yes, a very formidable defense. 4th in rushing defense. Awfully good in that department. But what he can do in the passing game gives me optimism that he's probably the best sub 6K play by a pretty wide margin. So if you're looking for a cheapie, he's about all I can really come up with. I have 1 out of 150 of Jeremy McNichols, which is actually hilarious, but we won't get into that. How do you feel about Austin Eckler to round out running back? Unless you have something else sub 6K that I'm not seeing.
No, it's a terrible range, which is why, I mean, The slate is so tight, and we're going to talk about some really greasy receivers, I'm sure. Eckler, I have no problem with. Yeah, it's a tough matchup. That's why he's 5,800. We're not paying 8K for this guy. Everyone has a salary. And if you want to play all the guys in great matchups, congratulations, you're going to be 3K over the cap and not actually playing. So yeah, I mean, you're going to walk into some guys that are in bad matchups. It's DFS with a really tight pricing structure on this slate. I'm fine with Eckler. His role is going to be just fine. And he catches the ball. Like, he's not going to be just slammed into the back of his offensive line 20 times.
You would hope, but just you never know. Washington, it's still so weird to see a 7-2 Washington team. My brain can't process it.
I can't get it either. It's awesome though. Good for them. They finally figured it out.
Yeah, sometimes ownership is a problem, and sometimes you can kick that dirt off your shoulder and life becomes better.
Yeah, man, I've been a Bears fan for most of my life.
Oh, it still sucks to be you.
I'm not a Bears fan anymore. I gave them up this year. I'm going to be a fan of whoever wins the Super Bowl.
I mean, what are they actually doing though? Like, what are they actually like? Why is Shane Waldron employed?
Dude, I tried to tell people this ahead of the season. They're like, you can't give up being a Bears fan now. They're finally getting Caleb Williams. They're going to be good. I'm like, dude, you've not been paying attention for the last 20 years. Caleb Williams does not matter. They need to do something else.
They have the best skill position players you could possibly ask for. I'm kind of a DeAndre Swift stan, especially early in the season when people were like asking for him to get sent to the Shadow Realm. I'm like, what are you actually talking about? He is by far their best running back. Roshan Johnson's fun at times in spurts, but definitely DeAndre Swift. And then Roma Dunze, freak, lost me tons of money in college football betting against him last year with Washington. Keenan Allen, one of my favorite players in the NFL, made us gobs of money with the Chargers, and it's just ridiculous whenever he's healthy, when he doesn't have hamstring issues, which is rare. It's been an awesome run. And then, of course, DJ Moore, who has found success with terrible quarterbacks, however, cannot find success because the plays that are being called are just so egregious. Shane Waldron, what are you actually doing?
Yeah, he's really bad, man. I can't believe he has a job. It's not even just like the plays that are being called. I watched the whole game last week. The defensive line's like running just stunts, like switching guys around. And it's like the offensive line doesn't know what they're supposed to do in those situations. Like, what are you doing in practice? Like, these are professionals. How do they not figure this stuff out? There's so many problems with the Bears that don't matter for DFS. Luckily, they're so cheap that you can still play some of these guys. But yeah, man, I mean, we don't need to keep talking about the Bears.
They have a good defense. But yeah, again, I do think Stevenson, if you're going to get at the Bears here today, I think on the ground, probably going to make more sense. So yeah, I'm not going to try the Drake May thing. I'm not going to try to go for the 1% or the Mason Rudolph thing that could have been a thing against Detroit if it weren't for some other nuclear spots. I just don't find a freaking reason whatsoever. But a couple of super chats we'll catch up on. I'll tell you a little bit about some goodies that we have here going at Stokastic with a couple of other companies that you can check out and get the Sims for free. That's fun. But Matt Bellman actually asking here from the Shadow Realm, can you ask Gajeski his thoughts on Rocket Jarrett with McMillan in? How are we feeling about Jarrett with McMillan before we get to the wide receiver spot? Because McMillan, I don't know what to make of his snap count. All I know is I didn't expect him to play football, and he is today. So that's going to be an interesting one. I think it just kind of makes everybody look terrible from Tampa. Maybe somebody puts up 12, 13, but like, I think it's really hard to figure out who now.
Yeah, I think it is too. They have not been consistent week to week. I think honestly, the player with the most consistent role is Sterling Shepard, but he's also probably the least enticing. I have kind of been on the Raheem Jarrett bandwagon, even from the start, like that first game where they had all these guys out, Evans and Godwin. Jarrett played the fewest snaps, but he was the best player they had on the field at wide receiver that day. And then his snaps have slowly been increasing. So this is a volatile spot. I'm okay playing some Jarrett, and I don't think you need to play a lot of him because he's going to be like 1% owned. But I honestly think I would rather play Jarrett than Sterling Shepard if you forced me to just pick one of them.
I mean, Sterling Shepard's going to actually be popular. That's the thing that has me.
And he sucks.
Yeah.
And he's also banged up. Everyone on the team's banged up except Jarrett.
But did you know he went to college with Baker Mayfield? That should count for something.
I did know that, yeah.
Well, of course you did. I'm being a dick. Don't mind me. Mason, $5.
Jarrett went?
No, I don't know where Raheem Jarrett went. Where did he go?
He went to Maryland.
Of course he did.
Played
They
with
actually played-
Talia Tagovailoa, baby
Hey.
Tagovailoa.
Maryland looked pretty good against Oregon yesterday. I was kind of impressed by Maryland playing some possession, did some really I think Oregon's pretty fortunate. It was like a fumble touchdown going the other direction and a couple of like fortunate timing things. I mean, there's no doubt. I like Dylan Gabriel. I married into a Duck family for the people who actually give a shit. Nobody? Okay, good. But
I do.
I was impressed by Maryland yesterday for what it's worth.
I do. I care. They're the worst team in the Big Ten, but glad they kind of turned something around. I think their coach is going to get fired.
Oh, that's fun. Mason, $5. Purdy, Hunter, D-Hop, or Herbert, Kincaid, Shakira for Shakira. I can't wait to talk about him for DK cash today.
I think the first side.
Yeah, I would find it hard to play cash today without Brock Purdy as my quarterback. I know Justin Herbert's 5,200, but like I have some respect. Notice that we didn't talk about him a ton. I'm not getting to him a ton. I have some respect for Tennessee's defense. Now, Will Levis sucks, and we could see him some short fields and life could become, pretty fun. We're also seeing them top 5 in terms of passer rate above expectation over the course of the last however many weeks, last 2-3 weeks, going to Cleveland and chuck the ball around the lot. And then they just kind of give the ball to J.K. Dobbins, or I guess Gus Edwards, who could be activated here today. Curious, make sure you're paying attention to those injury reports. And late swap, it'll still be a thing, but like, oh boy, what do you even like? I don't really find myself wanting to play Justin Herbert if he's going to be popular in any one of these spots.
I'm fine with Justin Herbert. He doesn't look super owned to me. Like, are you really
But
worried
for
about
for cash, I would rather just eat the chalk. And like
Oh,
that's
yeah,
part of
me
it.
too. Me too.
That's what we're talking about is from chalk perspective. Like in
Okay.
tournaments, I'm not huge on Justin Herbert either, but like from a cash perspective, I would want Brock Purdy at the helm with
I agree with
McCaffrey
you.
back. Like I just want that in cash.
I agree with you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mason. $5 super chat. That's really good stuff. You know what's also good stuff, friends? Free Sims tool. Well, how can you do it? Well, we have a link join going for you guys right now here at Stokastic. We have 11 sites that Jordan Klein, the best producer in the game named Jordan Klein, is going to throw up on your screen right now. And when you sign up with 4 simple steps, just sending that first betting ticket you make and your welcome email from the place that you sign up at to Stokastic, to support at Stokastic, you have an opportunity to get the Sims tool for a month for free. NBA just started. We have NFL, not just here on the weekends. We have Showdown slates on Monday, Thursday, including Thursday Thanksgiving coming up here in less than 3 weeks? I mean, this is absurd. The amount of NFL slates that we're going to have here from Showdown and from a full slate perspective is going to be redonkulous. And you want to be jumping in now to take advantage of it. And why not get some awesome deals? Underdog, up to $1,000 first match deposit bonus that they have going here right now. You have Better, you have Pick 6, Bet 5, get $50 over there. Sleeper, Bet 365. You have Bet 5, get $150 going in one of the 11 states where it's available, including North Carolina. Come on and raise up. Take your shirt off, twist around your head, spin it like a helicopter. Great opportunity for you to sign up with one of these 11 sites, following the 4 simple steps that Jordan Klein throws up here next as well. And when you do that, you're going to get that Sims tool for free. And again, so many slates, so little time. And did I mention the NBA is in full effect? I cannot tell you how fruitful that NBA Sims tool was for me last season. Multiple 5-figure wins purely because I can click buttons just like everybody else there with some projections that are above and away the best in the industry. Check out everything that we have going with that Sims tool for free, signing up with one of our partners at the link below or in chat that Jordan Klein also threw into there. Alrighty, to the wide receiver position we go. 33 minutes. Hit that like button, subscribe button. Would love to have you guys here for the long term. We're inside at 2 minutes over in Munich, so there is that. You guys are checking in on that. I'm sure you are. We'll have, we got 3.6K people hanging out, though. They need the information for the main slate while they're watching the end of that one here. And we've got Justin Jefferson in an awesome spot against Jacksonville, although weather doesn't look perfect. I really don't care. I'm not going to do anything for that. CeeDee Lamb, he's going to have Cooper Rush throwing the football, which was not a disaster last time around that happened. But overall, I'm not super excited about CeeDee Lamb at 8,600. Could definitely see him being super low owned and being a fun tournament dart in a lineup or two. But because of running back being so good, I want to spend up. And I think I'm going to take some of those more sure-handed points with those top-end guys. A.J. Brown, 8,200, feels like a luxury item. And I'll throw Devonta Smith in there too, because for whatever reason, he's up to 7,800. That was not very nice of DraftKings.com. How do you feel about the expensive wide receivers on today's slate?
They're also pretty hard to get to. The most own player for me in this range is Justin Jefferson, which I think just makes sense. He's the best receiver in the NFL. He's the easiest stacking partner with Darnold, who's not all that expensive, and your matchup is super easy against Jacksonville's secondary. It all lines up for him. The only thing that inhibits you is salary. I still couldn't get a lot of Justin Jefferson. I have a fair amount, but it's going to be pretty close to the field. It's just hard to come in overweight to him with all of the sacrifices you need to make elsewhere.
It's so hard. I mean,
I got 20% and I tried my hardest to
forcing. I
Yeah.
can't even get up to 20%, which it just is what it is. It's so hard for me to land on expensive wide receiver. For such a diehard Viking fan, for Justin Jefferson to be my favorite player in the NFL, I really never get to him in DFS. It's kind of weird. It's been that way for 2 years. I don't remember a slate I was overweight to him last year. I mean, partially because he was always coming off of like nicked up injuries, but like I really have not played him this year, and I continue to be right around the field or underweight right now. 8% Justin Jefferson, 1% CeeDee Lamb in 150. Saquon Barkley, going to be the expensive guy at like the 8K range. If I'm trying to force something that isn't Alvin Kamara, I think I'm just running on like the 2 running back type builds. It's so hard to spend my salary on these wide receivers. Although if you told me one of them went for 40, got to go for Justin Jefferson, right? Even though he hasn't even gone like beyond 30, I think, this entire season.
Yeah, I think it's him. I don't know who else you would just reasonably predict that for. So yeah, I'm in on Justin Jefferson as much as I can be. It's just hard to get there. But yeah, I mean, I think that most of our other good receiver plays are just kind of in the mid-price range or maybe the upper to mid-price range. I'm not playing CD. Yeah, man, I don't really think there's much else to say on this. This is a bad range because of the way the slate was structured from the outset.
100% with you. Glad we see it the same way. Now is where it gets tough because Garrett Wilson and Davante Adams, we were going to run into this situation sooner rather than later. I felt it coming, and boy, it is not comfortable at all to try to pick between the two of them right now. There are cases that can be made for like trying to prioritize one or the other. I think the best path right now for me is just simply getting overweight a little bit to both of them and kind of living with the result of it. But like, I've gone through data. I've watched a lot of shows. I've checked out a ton of content throughout the entire week. And I wish I had a talking point about the difference between Wilson and Adams in this spot. One is $200 more. That's the best I can come up with right now because I have no idea how I'm supposed to prioritize one over the other. I'm just playing a little bit more of both of them in this spot. Can you help me out here whatsoever? Because I like both against Arizona. This is a nice spot in a dome for them to be showing up in. But like, what do we even do to try to prioritize one over the other?
I mean, there's not that much you can do. Their ownership is almost identical. Obviously, it's the same game. The best thing I can say is that you would expect like 60% of the targets to flow through these two guys the rest of the way. If you are playing multiple lineups, I think this is an easy question to answer. They both project well, and you get a fair amount of both of them in the sims. If you're only playing one, I guess that's the question we're trying to answer for the people. It's still going to be Garrett Wilson for me. It just comes down to slightly more targets. And maybe you could argue that that will change with Adams getting more and more accustomed to the offense. I don't think that's a huge issue. He's played with Rodgers plenty of times. But Wilson still has a slightly better target share when they're both healthy. So I will pick him if you force me to just pick one of the two Jets.
Yeah, I'm saying Davante Adams because he's $200 less. That's literally the only thing I can really come up with for why I would play more Davante Adams here at the moment. But I'm getting to about the same amount of both. It's just so difficult. And it makes me a little bit worried that like Aaron Rodgers doubles are exclusively going to be those two. And that's a lot of salary to be utilizing on guys. I'd be more inclined to play some Aaron Rodgers singles today. That's kind of something I was playing around with in the Sims yesterday for a while, was like, all right, if I just run a bunch of Jets and trying to figure out what happens with this Jets-Arizona game, because I'm always thinking about late swap, I really was landing on a bunch of those like doubles and started to break them off into singles. And I really like those builds more with the 3 running backs still, some double tight end, a couple of them. I'm not getting as much of those as what I was expecting because of how many shots I'm taking on these cheap wide receivers. Yeah, just wanted to talk about that one because I think it's pretty uncomfortable. Also uncomfortable is George Pickens at 6,800 being somebody that I'm overweight to. God help us all. Drake London dinged up 6,700. Brian Thomas back in our lives. Although, he's been there. He played against Philly, but it just hasn't been pretty whatsoever. Deebo Samuel, though, at 6,900 seems to be the upper six guy that is going to be garnering double-digit ownership, and I totally think it makes sense. McCaffrey back, though. I know Ayuk's still out for the season. Still feels like underpriced potentially against Tampa, but you really, really need things to break his way still. And you got some cheapy wide receivers in Juwan Jennings and Ricky Pearsall that are pretty decent, I think, so far this season. I feel more comfortable going to them at the moment with my Brock Purdy stacks, which is so weird to say. Because I think Deebo's going to be the popular piece with Purdy. So it is what it is. How you feeling about the upper sixes? Anything you really like?
I think I like Deebo a little bit more than you. He should just be the focal point of the pass game without Ayuk. We have a huge sample of them doing that because seemingly one of them's hurt every single game. So yeah, Deebo I think is fine. I'm not that worried about the ownership. It's not super high. The only real receivers you have to worry about ownership today are Downs, Shakir, and A.D. Mitchell. Everyone else, it's kind of negligent. You don't really have to, or negligible, excuse me. You don't really have to do anything with anyone else, I think. So yeah, otherwise in the upper 6K range, I have some Pickens, which you mentioned already. I think he's completely fine. He doesn't make me as nervous as you do. With Wilson under center, his efficiency is increased. London is fine in this range, in my opinion, coming off the injury against a lifeless New Orleans team. Those are the three I have the most of. Everyone else is kind of just sprinklings from here on out.
Okay, that's fair. I'm not saying that it's a terrible way to go about living your life. I'm just saying that, George Pickens, I have a lot of him. I
like Pickens.
I've always liked George Pickens. I've always liked, when Deontay Johnson was there, I was such a Deontay Johnson stan too, so it is what it is. So you don't get everything right, that's for sure. I am looking at this 6K range, and I think we just got to go down to the bottom and talk about it. Josh Downs, Khalil Shakira. They're both awesome plays. I'm going to be overweight to both. It's a great game environment. And Josh Downs, he's been the number one here for Joe Flacco at the helm. I feel much better about the fact that they aren't going to be blitzing like crazy. I think this offensive line should be okay for Indy. Just hold off the pass rush. Life should be good. And then on the other side of this one, Khalil Shakir, he's been undervalued, I think, by the marketplace every week. I know that that's something DFS over in Tails has really highlighted in a lot of his plays over the course of the last few weeks and just continues to smash, continues to put up good output. And now you're running into a spot with no Keon Coleman and no Amari Cooper, should be the number one pass catching option there. Him, Dalton Kincaid, two pieces I really, really like on this slate. Is there a lot else to say? There's always a case for fading somebody, anybody can get dinged up, but I'm worried Josh Downs ends up really popular in small field, and yet he is one of the pieces of chalk that I'm happy to eat in that lineup. How do you feel about him?
Yeah, he's a good play. He's the wide receiver one for a very pass-heavy team who's going to have to throw the ball today. He's also been efficient, and he's done well as the wide receiver one. He's been way better than Pittman this year. Some of that probably just the back injury that Pittman's trying to play through. But yeah, he projects really well. He should be one of the most owned plays on the slate. If you want to fade him, you just need to make a conscious choice to do that. For reference, he has higher projections than he's almost 3-4 points higher than Devontae Smith up at the top. He has almost the same projection as AJ Brown. He's a better projection than CeeDee Lamb. This is just an awesome player at this price. Probably the single best receiver play on the slate. Shakir, I think there is more volatility. They use so many different personnel groupings. One thing you hit on at the beginning of the show was their propensity to use 12 personnel with Dawson Knox. I don't think Shakir is the main player that would be hurt by that, but they still do it. So it's at least a risk that he carries that Josh Downs does not. So if you're forced to pick one, it would be Josh Downs for me. Even with the price gap, it's slight, but you do have to pay $200 more. But yeah, they're both awesome plays.
The guy who would be impacted the most would be Curtis Samuel, but he's already been impacted by quite literally everything in Buffalo this season. The existence of any other player on planet Earth has kept Curtis Samuel off the field.
He stinks.
Why'd they pay him? What are we even doing? I brought that up, 2 weeks ago, where I went on a little bit of a mini rant. I actually think that was on a Wednesday show with Laffy, but is what it is. Mac Hollins, 3,300, should be on the field quite a bit. I think he's serviceable to take shots on too. Khalil Shakir, again, Josh Allen, really the only expensive quarterback that I'm finding paths to on today's slate. He'll be in a couple of main lineups for me, but yeah, my main lineup still not going to be an expensive quarterback. That is for sure. I'm looking at these cheapies though, and we'll get there. We'll get there. I think that'll be kind of what we really want to round out our show with, but this 5K range kind of dormant. We're starting to get really, really thin with some of these pieces. I mean, what do you like the most down here as well? Because like, I think Lad McConkey going to be pretty darn popular. I know he's been popular in projected ownership the last couple of weeks, hasn't always come to fruition, but they're throwing the ball a lot more. There is no disputing that. Calvin Ridley, Portland Sutton potentially as a run back option in KC, although that's not something I'm thinking about nearly as much. And then the lower fives, Keenan Allen, the corpse of DeAndre Hopkins pulling quite a bit of ownership. Totally get it. I'm a little surprised to see Jordan Addison sub 3%. Think he probably gets steamed up because people recognize Jacksonville's defense is terrible and horrible, no good, very bad as well. And Roma Dunze is on the outside looking in. Juwan Jennings, though, probably my favorite relative to ownership, sub 10%. Will be on the field a lot more going forward here. And I think McCaffrey's just going to rise the entire offense here a little bit. Not that Jordan Mason wasn't very serviceable. Isaac Garudo, when he was in there for random spurts from Jordan Mason shoulder injuries, but I think McCaffrey's really going to help the entire framework of this offense. And I think you're going to look at Juwan Jennings and Ricky Pearsall as guys with massive tournament winning upside going forward here at these kind of prices. I love him. Do you love him as well? Anything else from the 5K range for you?
Yeah, I think he's fine. This range is, I still think, pretty good overall, in a place you want to land on at least for one of your roster spots. Ladd is an awesome play with the elevated price or pass rate for the Chargers recently. Tennessee, they're also kind of banged up in their secondary, so I'm not super worried about that. On the other side of that game, Ridley projects just fine as the target leader. He's in a brutal matchup against the Chargers, so I don't love that. With an incompetent quarterback, Levis is back. Hopkins, I think, is my favorite play in this range. He's still not carrying a ton of ownership with Mahomes coming into a full-time role with this team. That should only improve. And then Jennings is the other one I like a lot that you mentioned. I'm getting a lot of him, I think, is an attachment to Brock Purdy, just as a stacking partner in the mid-price range for this offense.
All right. It's dusty.
All right.
It's awfully dusty. You ready?
No.
Oh, God. Adonai Mitchell, Curtis Samuel,
that is dusty.
or Mac Hollins. Pick one.
Say it again.
Adonai Mitchell, Addie Mitchell, Curtis Samuel, Mac Hollins. Pick one.
Mac Hollins. Give me Mac Hollins.
I hate everything about this. I mean,
You
Addie Mitchell
brought this
probably,
up.
but he's going to be so... No, but I mean, somebody asked it in the chat. They brought it up technically, but I think it's a great starting point because Addie Mitchell would be my favorite. But if he ends up 20% owned in like the Millie or something, I'm going to drop kick myself and tell myself how terrible I am at DFS, probably go cry in a corner and never talk to anyone again. Some of you would really like that, wouldn't you?
Dude, he played behind Ashton Doolin last week.
Oh, yeah, that's bad.
Like, I don't think he's just the locked-in wide receiver 3 here.
Do you have any Alec Pierce?
No, I don't think so. Let me double check this.
Okay, good talk. Glad we had
I do have a ton of downs.
Okay. There's a ton
Alec Pierce, have you seen his receiving profile? It's like the weirdest thing ever.
Yeah, it's just bombs.
It's just
absolute bombs. That's all. The dude, it's like, I'm Alec Pierce,
funny.
and I hit dingers. It's like he just absolutely goes to the plate and just swings for the fences every time. It's incredible, actually.
It is pretty funny. I like his role that they've given him. I don't know if it's going to be the most successful.
Run that way.
He either gets you a 0 or he catches a 70-yard touchdown. It's wild.
All right, next one. Jalen McMillan, Trey Palmer, Sterling Shepard.
Sterling Shepard. I feel terrible about it, though.
I know you do. Didn't it feel grimy to say? But like, hopefully the
me.
ownership comes down on Shepard a little bit, but I'm worried he's going to be popular and I'm probably going to drop kick myself. Actually, what I will say is the worst thing that I'm about to ever say. Mason Tipton, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, pick one.
Give me Tipton. Goodness gracious.
I almost said Dante Pettis, but I couldn't do it.
I'm not playing Dante Pettis.
I'm not either, but
I'm not playing Dante Pettis till he joins the New Orleans Breakers.
I'm just looking at my wide receivers. One other guy to kind of throw into the mix. It hasn't been pretty by any means, but 3,900, this Washington fellow from Jacksonville. I think that there's at least a case to be made. You get Gabe Davis and Brian Thomas in there, but I think you probably still see him play the slot. Christian Kirk out, obviously, for the season. Calvin Austin, been on the field a lot here. I don't think Mike Williams leads in entirely here. And Van Jefferson. Oh, I actually have Van Jefferson in lineups right now. What is this slate actually?
It's crazy, man. We don't have anyone who's cheap to play, so we're forced to play these guys that are barely on NFL rosters.
Slim Brody, I'm reporting you for these questions, Eric. Totally valid. Totally valid. Here's the thing. These are actually questions that matter on today's slate, in my opinion. You're going to want to try to find somebody from the Shadow Realm, and if everybody wants to play Mitchell, I think Hollins is probably the right answer as we've talked through those ones between him and Samuel. I'll take that shot for sure. If this ends up being the Samuel game, I might be in shambles. But I mean, favorite 3 wide receiver plays relative to ownership on today's slate.
Oh God.
Yeah. They're like the worst question ever. We'll round out wide receiver.
Dude, honestly, it might be like Quentin Johnston. I'm going to pick him as 1.
Jesus.
Like, you're going to, unless, so
man.
I'm trying to be realistic here. Like, what am I going to say? Like, Justin Jefferson or something? Like, good luck getting him into your lineup. The rest of it is going to be brutal. I'm trying to give you, like, players that are actually going to be somewhat reasonable to click on. So, Quentin Johnston, I guess, is 1. Ricky Pearsall. Damn, this is really hard.
I know.
We didn't talk about Noah
easy.
Brown much. I'm somewhat interested there, but he's not even low owned. I don't know, man. This is really hard. Those are my top 2. Give me a beat on this third one.
I can't. I don't know.
Dude, like, let me read you some of the guys that I have.
I want to hear it because then we'll jump to tight end. We'll do defense. We'll get ourselves the heck up out of here. But yeah, I mean, this is such a dusty range. Ravery McLeod, a good play today. No, but you can definitely play him.
Devon Vele,
Yep.
Lil Jordan Humphrey, Noah Brown, Mac Hollins, Sterling Shepard. Those are all guys I have like more than like 2 or 3% of.
I will say my number 1 lineup in the Sims when I hard favored it had Veely in it, Devon Veely, which again, what are we actually doing on this slate? But here we are. You ready to go to tight end?
I guess. Let's go. Let's do it.
Yeah. The moral of the story here today, friends, is we don't know what we should be pairing with what and how or when, but we're going to do it and we're going to try to force it in and make it work. But a lot of it is just simply letting the Sims tool run and making it do its thing, which you can do with promo code everything and have it off 10% for the rest of life. Yes, as long as you live, as long as we exist, you can use code everything and get the Sims tool, as well as our data, all of our goodness here at Stokastic for 10% off for life. That is locked in. You can take advantage of other things. You can take advantage of all the other great offers that we have here at Stokastic as well. But code everything locks in 10% all the time, year round, for every sport, everything here at Stokastic. So take advantage of that as we head over to the tight end position. It is going to get real chalky yet again here at the top. We're going to see Cade Otton pull quite a bit of ownership. I think that's just kind of like the way that things have broken with all of the wide receivers out there. Baker Mayfield just targeting him ad nauseum, but George Kittle is probably my favorite tournament play on the slate, relative to ownership at 16%. If you want to get different with your Brock Purdy stacks and not necessarily have Debo or, potentially go McCaffrey Kittle, I love Kittle here in this spot for whatever reason. It is just showing up for me in the Sims over and over and over again. However, 4,900 Dalton Kincaid looks much different as I'm finishing on my lineups, getting to a lot more of him now for 900 less than that of Kittle. So looks like that's coming almost directly by way of Kittle. I had 30% Kittle. It's now down to 19%. Currently 16% owned. Dalton Kincaid, 15%. I'm now north of that ownership. The expensive tight ends have some opportunities here for sure. I guess it's now pretty flat at the top with that news that Amari Cooper was out. But how are you looking at the expensive end of tight end? Who do you like the most?
I got a lot of double tight end builds.
Okay.
And I think a lot of it is just because you have let's use Kincaid as your example. Kincaid at 4,900. Would you rather play him or would you rather play Quentin Johnston? You definitely cannot play a running back in that range. mathematically don't make any sense at their projection. And that's kind of just the case across the board at tight end. You get a lot of double tight ends because like K-Dot at 5,500 is better than almost every receiver in that range. So yeah, I'm playing a ton of tight ends in general on this slate, which it feels really gross. It's one of the gross things you have to do on this slate to make things work. But Kittle projects really well for his price, just on the slate in a vacuum. I'm playing a ton of Purdy. He makes sense. Kelsey's cheap for his current role as long as DeAndre Hopkins doesn't continue to ascend. I have a lot of Mahomes. He's in stacks there. McBride at 5,700, I'm not quite as exposed to, but I am playing a little bit. He's just better than a lot of receivers in this range. K-Dot, and you mentioned, I'm playing a lot of that game in general. So he's a run back in some of these lineups with like Purdy and Debo and McCaffrey. There are others that are Baker, and he's the primary stacking partner with Baker there. I mean, Kincaid, he's coming off a 10-target game, and now there's no Amari. He actually has a really good role in this offense. It's just been wildly inefficient so far this year. So yeah, tight end is kind of a necessary evil for builds, even though it feels really bad.
Does feel really, 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 really bad. But we have to just rotate around some of these guys here at the top. And K-Dot, again, I'm worried about the ownership. I think George Kittle might get a little bit slept on, and that's kind of what I'm looking at. Ownership right now pretty concentrated between these top end guys, but then we get these two specific pieces. I'll bring them up. Taysom Hill and then 3,900 Hunter Henry. I really don't love either because I think both could end up crazy popular. And I think I'm more willing to punt and rotate around some of these wide receivers at the moment, although that's a weird thing to say considering, I mean, running back's just so stacked that it becomes pretty clear cut for me. Yeah, you can go to some of those double tight ends. I mean, Will Dissly, somebody that is showing up as the second tight end in a lot of those. There's not really a lot of flexibility. I can't really turn him into anything in late swap, so you're kind of stuck with him at 3,100. There's no pivot to get off of it. That's one of my irritations with it, but I'm okay with it to some extent. I think Tyler Conklin, if he ends up playing, that would be awesome. Like, I think that could end up being the low-owned tournament play, but probably ends up being more of an afternoon piece for me. Amongst the sub 4K chalk pieces, including Taysom Hill, who do you get to the most?
Hunter Henry for sure. Zach Ertz. That's about it. I like playing Taysom Hill probably more than most people. They just don't have anyone on their offense left who's competent. So I think he's somebody that probably is maybe underprojected, depending on what you think of that. But yeah, I mean, the mid-range is just so healthy. I don't see a lot of reason to come down here. You don't really need to.
It gets really gross. It's actually disturbing down here. So,
like, what does Will Dissly have to do to burn me?
Not get targeted, although he's been decent enough. He's 3,100. That's the whole point.
Right. And he's still not, he's a decent value. He's not a good value.
I would agree with that as well. I think that's the perfect way to explain it. I don't have a lot else to tight end.
Like him.
I think Juwan Johnson, last guy I'll throw into the mix. You want to get leverage at the goal line. You want to have somebody that if New Orleans does stay competitive here in this one, don't we got to take some shots on Juwan Johnson here instead of Taysom Hill?
I don't see any ceiling with him, so I'm not going to do it.
Good talk. Glad we had it. Hit the like button, everybody. Subscribe button, notification bell. Would be awesome to have you guys here at Stokastic, here on the YouTube channels every single Sunday for this slate. Of course, we still have some great content coming up later in the afternoon. Do we have NBA Live Before Lock today, by the way, Jordan? Do we? Didn't see that on the schedule. I just wanted to double check. I didn't see it on the schedule. I wanted to make sure because I got asked that in my DMs a little bit earlier. And then we also have NFL Showdown Live Before Lock. That's what you want to pay attention to with our guys, Emac and Matt Bellman. Would be awesome to see you guys there on that program leading you into Sunday Night Football, which is pretty appealing here. Are we going to get Mr. Nico Collins activated here? I guess he did get activated to 53, but still listed questionable. That's going to be a huge piece of news here for the evening. But check out the Showdown stuff, as well as adjusting some of those FanDuel lineups. If you guys need help with that, Emac is the guy who can help you, as well as Matt Bellman, of course, who won a nice, cool 115K last weekend. That is a spicy meatball. Defense, Matt Kajeski's favorite position on planet Earth. Tons of Bears, tons of New England. I mean, this is going to account for like more than half of the ownership for this entire slate. New England, Chicago. Oh my Lord. I get it. If you make me pick one, I'm going to go to the Chicago side in one lineup if you're going that direction. I'm trying to get away from it in my single entry build, though. going towards that New England Ramondre Stevenson piece. God help us all. But Matt Kajeski, who are the defenses you're landing on the most in your lineups?
So I'm going to explain this like the best way I can using the Sims tool and why it's something you should use for a position like defense, because there's tons of bias baked in. A lot of people through the years have just ran with this heuristic that you just don't play the highest owned defense. It's so volatile, you just don't do it. That's not true. The projections come from something. And if a defense does project that much far ahead of the other defenses, you still should play them and eat the ownership as long as the rest of your lineup is okay. And the Sims tool gives you lineups that are good. If you're using the chalk defense, there is going to be some other low owned piece that makes the lineup fine. Bears are my second most owned defense. I'm right in line with the field, around 20% there. Patriots are my most owned defense, coming in a little bit above the field. I guess to talk about that game briefly and why it projects well, total is minuscule. The Bears especially have a horrific offensive line. Both these QBs will take sacks and turn the ball over. And it's a slate where we don't have a lot of options to get up to the studs we want. It's tight pricing. I'm completely fine with eating the chalk here. Our Sims are completely fine with it across tournaments. You do not need to be cute here and get away from this just for the sake of getting away from this.
I mean, good God, that was as perfectly said as you possibly could say it. I have no notes.
You can get away from it. You can play a lone defense and play chalk elsewhere, but you don't need to just blindly follow that heuristic.
I mean, that was just so perfectly said that there's really nothing else to throw into there for the people. Yeah, I like the Vikings defense too. That was the other one I was going to throw in. Blitz, Matt Jones win money probably seems like something that makes too much sense. Makes way too much sense for just rationale. Do we have any other super chats here over the course of this program? Eric Johnson, $4.99. Yes, Downs or Eckler in the flex for a FanDuel GPP?
I'm going to say Eckler.
I'm going to say Eckler too, purely because touchdowns matter. They definitely matter on FanDuel. He's right around plus 100, depending on maybe like plus 105, minus 105, depending on what book you're looking at. Give me the Eckler side of things over Downs there. Half point PPR also going to think that gets, and although they have the bonuses over there, so definitely a path to getting to both in lineups over there. I'm not playing FanDuel today, as you might have been able to tell. Broncos defense is great. I've had some builds that have landed on the 2,400 number with Broncos and Cowboys. Cowboys get Micah Parsons back. That seems fun, but they're still dust.
Yes, they are.
And to dust they shall return. Alrighty, y'all. We're going to get ourselves close to getting the heck up out of here, unless there were any other questions from people. Checking the Discord. Let me see that here as well. You can become a part of that here at Stokastic as well. We really, really love having all the interactions in there. I've been stopping by a little bit more now that the NBA is underway, that's for sure. Going to be covering a lot of different stuff there. Got no tags in that one as well. I guess we'll get ourselves the heck up out of here, Matt, and get ourselves to the football screens, to a Sunday Red Zone. That'll be a fun one. But he's Matt Gajeski, Matt_Gajeski over on X. I'm at Eric Lindquist. You can find us both there. Matt, any final words for the people as we get out of here?
Make sure you're watching Inactives, Gus Edwards. There's a ton tonight on FanDuel. The Texans game is included. Wish we knew about Nico Collins now, but we do not. So that's always a big piece. And otherwise, just a big thank you for coming and hanging out with us every Sunday. Me and Eric love being able to do this for you guys, and it means a lot that you choose to spend your time with us. So thank you.
Perfectly said. No notes. Lots of great stuff from Matt Gajeski here throughout the entire day. Some okay stuff from Jordan Klein behind the virtual paywall over here for you guys. We're going to get ourselves out of here. Thank you so much. Week 10, best of luck. Let's go get some W's.